here. Like I said though, in the far south, clearer skies leading to temperatures dropping, a touch of frost, even some freezing fog patches to watch out for first thing tomorrow morning. So yes, it is going to be a cold start for some of us, especially in the south. Any freezing fog patches should clear relatively quickly as we go through the morning, but some of them could linger for a little while. A damper picture first thing across more central areas, but across Northern Ireland and Scotland, after a largely dry night, just a few coastal showers around, it should be a largely fine start to the day. There will be quite a bit of cloud around, but across eastern parts to the lee of high ground, with the winds coming in from the west-southwest, there should be some breaks, and those breaks are going to continue through the day tomorrow. So some sunshine for eastern parts in particular, but across more central areas of the UK staying cloudy, that front gradually making its way southwards, and more drizzly rain to come as well. The best chance of any sunshine will be towards the south-southwest of England. Even here though, the cloud building through the afternoon. Temperatures a little bit on the mild side, generally getting into double figures for most of us. As we look ahead to Wednesday, and it's a largely dry day for many of us, a front tries to bring some wetter, windier weather to the far northwest of the UK, but doesn't bring a huge amount. Otherwise, we're going to see increasing amounts of sunshine from the northwest, but generally staying cloudy towards the southeast, and quite a bit more cloud to come as we go through the end of the week, though looking largely dry. Bye-bye.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello there, very good morning to you, Kemi. Badenoch slams grooming gangs.
I'm not afraid to look into this. I don't care what people call me, whether they say I'm jumping on a far-right bandwagon.
In a GB News exclusive interview, the Conservative leader labels abusers peasants from sub-communities.
She calls for immediate deportation and imprisonment for foreign criminals.
Treasury turmoil. The Prime Minister gives a lukewarm backing to his Chancellor amid economic chaos.
I'm confident in our mission for growth, and I'm confident, completely confident in my team.
A spy in the palace. Newly unsealed MI5 files reveal what the Queen did or did not know about a KGB spy working at Buckingham Palace.
The controversial programme Love Island returned to our screens last night, but we're asking, is the show doing us more harm than good? We'll be debating whether reality TV is toxic just after 7 o'clock this morning.
And hold your nose if you're in Birmingham. Bin workers walk off the job. Union leaders pledge to cause huge disruption to the city.
And in sport this morning, Emma Raducanu, Eamonn's favourite, is through, whilst Cameron Norrie is knocked out of the Australian Open. Tyson Fury has announced his retirement again. And it's Back to the Future tonight, first against third, as Liverpool play Nottingham Forest.
A lot of cloud across the UK this morning, but some bright spells are expected in one or two spots. After the full forecasts coming up very soon.
Hello to you on this Tuesday morning. I'm Eamonn Hopes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Ellie.
Now, in fairness to Emma Raducanu, who I think is,
wonderful,
looks fantastic. I think she's, if you were a sponsor, you'd love to have her associated with.
Here it comes. Here it comes.
She's useless. But anyway, today, I mean, she did. That was a good win yesterday. I'll give her that.
Yep.
Because this person was ranked 62 or so. Were they? What?
No, 26.
26.
13th seed.
And she's ranked what? A million and.
Yeah, 1,035,000.
Yeah.
Ellie is 15 places above her in the rankings.
Right. So I think that's good. Fair credit's due.
Yeah. It was a bit. So
I'm hearing the £100 come calling.
No, there's no chance. That's as safe as houses. She's not going to win anything. She's not going to win any titles.
She's only 21. You've got to give her a bit more of a chance.
When you play and you serve, and it's sometimes you smack it. It's either an ace or a double fault for me. That's either one thing or the other. Yeah. With her, I think there was over 20 double faults in this game. This happened about 2-3 o'clock this morning.
That wouldn't fill you full of confidence.
I think there were. I'm going to look at the facts when we talk about the sport. I think within the first two games, 4 aces and about 5 double faults. So it was either one thing or the other.
Yeah.
And you think that the serving, that's the bit that if you're a professional tennis player, you wouldn't have trouble with. Because that's the thing, surely, that stays the same, right?
Agreed.
By the way, did you see the action? It wasn't bad, was it?
That was good, yeah.
So that...
Almost like a professional.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. It was top spin on it as well. So you would think that would be something that you would always be able to do, but obviously not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, obviously not. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is bins. Oh. There's a bin strike in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And, immediately, I just find with the media, all of the media, including us, we condemn strikes all the time. I don't condemn strikes. I don't think people go on strike unless there's something to strike about. And ask yourself this question, would you empty bins? Would you be a bin person? You're not called bin men anymore, they're called bin persons.
Refuge workers.
Refuge workers or whatever it is. But tough job. So what do you think about bins and messy? I did a TV programme where I worked 2 weeks as a bin man.
Did you?
I did.
Was it really hard graft?
It was amazing how much people who did it enjoyed it.
Oh.
But the thing that I left with at the end of 2 weeks was how filthy we are.
Oh.
Absolutely filthy. People, honestly, people who dump mattresses by the side of the road, people who throw all sorts of awfulness into their bins and beyond, you do not want to know.
Well, at least some of them throw it in their bins. What drives me crazy is, you get the fly tippers and you just get a load of rubbish just left by the side. So what do you do? What do they drive into somewhere and just go, I'll chuck that on the side?
Yeah.
And then who picks it up? People like me. People like me, that's all.
People like you, people like the people who are going on strike as well. And we're going to be debating that. We're going to to be visiting Birmingham. It's a big inconvenience, obviously it is. It's, but you know, let's get it sorted. Let's do that. Or it's all going to be left to Paul to pick up.
I know, quite frankly, I'm fed up.
Do it all, can you?
I'm like one of the wombles. I just go around picking up litter wherever I go.
Overground, wombling free. The wombles of Wimbledon, common are we.
I love the Wombles.
Making good use of that. Oh, is it finished?
The refuse workers, I should say. You'd miss them. Honestly, my bins are always overflowing. They don't come often enough.
Yeah.
I mean, if they went on strike for me, I'd be...
But you might be in danger of your bin not being emptied if it overflows.
Yeah, I know, so that I have to stand on it every 2 weeks.
Yeah, because if the lid's slightly open...
I do.
You make sure,
You won't take it. I've been caught out too many times now.
Is this a green bin or a grey bin or a brown bin?
It's all my online orders. Too many cardboard boxes.
Oh, is it?
So you open the lid and then...
They won't take it if the lid's ajar.
No, but you then have to stand in the bin. Who gets you up into the bin?
My fiancé.
Right.
Or he stands on it. Either way, we have to squash down the bins. And then, do you know what I did the other day, which I am ashamed to say? When I got in the taxi at 3 o'clock in the morning, I took a load of recycling and put it in the neighbour's bin in the middle of the night.
What they don't know doesn't hurt them.
Exactly.
They might know now.
OK. Let's begin the show this morning with politics and Charlie Peters, an amazing guy. He's our national reporter, and he's been working big time on this grooming gang situation, these rapist gangs. And he sat down with an exclusive interview, bombshell interview, with the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch.
Yes.
No, Badenoch. There's no bad in Badenoch. She's Badenoch. That's it, right.
Yeah. They spoke about the grooming gang scandal that's horrified so many people. Here's what she had to say.
I'm not afraid to look into this. I don't care what people call me, whether they say I'm jumping on a far-right bandwagon or I'm just doing it for politics. This is something that I've been talking about for a while. I said it in my big leadership speech. This was something I wanted to look at. But if you look at it, there is a systematic pattern of behaviour, not even just from one country, but from sub-communities within those countries, people with a particular background, particular class background, work background.
What background is that?
You know, people very, very poor, sort of peasant background, very, very rural. This is about those victims who deserve justice, the survivors who deserve justice.
That's Kemi Badenoch speaking to Charlie Peters. Meanwhile, a spokesman for Sir Keir Starmer has confirmed that Rachel Reeves will stay on as Chancellor until the next general election. That's despite a drop in the pound and a borrowing cost increase in the past week alone.
The deputy editor of Spike magazine, Fraser Myers, is with us to give us his opinions on that. If you were Rachel Reeves, would you be worried about your position, your job?
I think so. I think she should be worried. I think she should be worried about the state of the British economy. I mean, there are many indicators now that are worse than after the Liz Truss mini-budget disaster, particularly the cost of borrowing. And the cost of borrowing impacts on everything, not just on, how much money there is left to spend on, the government's priorities, on public services. But also, if the debt interest reaches a certain point, she will be in breach of her own fiscal rules, which to most people that doesn't matter, but that's the thing that Rachel Reeves has really prized above all else. And she's in a very tricky position because essentially she said one of the reasons she was able to say to herself that her budget was so brilliant and so wonderful and was going to deliver growth was because it was signed off by the budget for office responsibility. She put so much store by that. But now it's clear that their judgment is not necessarily the same as the markets. And you just don't know who can she turn to now to advice? How can she fundamentally change course? And usually the way that...
She can't turn to Keir Starmer because I wouldn't trust him. He will run with the hounds and hunt with the hares or the other way about, whatever way it is. It's all about him, really, at the end of the day.
I think that's right. And he has shown in the past a sort of ruthlessness when, if he thinks that his position is being threatened, then he will sack anyone and he will do anything to ensure that, to put an end to that problem. I think the other problem for Starmer, though, is that, well, maybe this isn't a problem, actually. I don't think he has any strong views about how the economy is run. I think he did outsource a lot of this to Rachel Reeves. You don't see any passion about the budget or any of the measures in the budget. So Yeah, potentially there could be a change of course there. It's hard to tell.
They're so politically intertwined, though, aren't they, Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves? I mean, they have been allies for years now. What are we to read into the fact that he was asked yesterday, yes or no, will Rachel Reeves be Chancellor by the time the next election comes around? He didn't answer. And it came to number 10, having to release a statement hours later saying, oh, no, she will be. Is it because he didn't want that as a soundbite? He didn't want it as a television clip if she were to lose her job in the next few weeks?
I would say so. I mean, so often there's nothing more damning than hearing that the board has full confidence in, in their CEO or whatever it is. I think clearly it remains to be seen, but I think, we might see that sort of ruthless streak. On the other hand, they might think we can ride this out, Would a change of Chancellor actually spook the markets a bit more, especially if, there isn't an alternative plan? There needs to be... If you're going to change Chancellor, you need to have a clear plan as to how to get out of this. I'm not convinced that anyone in Labour does.
What just gets me, he was given, really two good opportunities to say, Rachel Reeves got my full support. And he didn't. So then Downing Street go to him and say, oh, you should have said something, this has created a whole big fuss. And then it comes back with a statement from Mr Starmer which says, Rachel Reeves is doing a fantastic job. She's my full confidence and the full confidence of the entire party. Now, it was as easy to say that first time around as it was to wait a few hours and then say it. So what way does this man's mind work?
And that final statement has an air of the lady doth protest too much, having the full confidence not just of Starmer but of the entire party, when surely I would actually hope that internally people are asking questions and thinking, what are we going to do about these market jitters? What are we going to do about the fact that borrowing costs are rising? That is going to throw our entire programme off course.
OK, meanwhile, Kemi Badenoch, she sat down with Charlie Peters and she had a lot to say about these rape gangs.
She made some really, really important points. One was that this is not simply a historic crime. There's a lot of discussion about this as being something that happened in the past, that happened in the 2000s. We put a stop to it in the 2010s. Not true. Still ongoing. Still many victims.
And Fraser, I totally agree with you. I've done many interviews over the years with people affected by this, and the one thing is for sure, everything that was inflicted upon them, they live it through to this day and beyond, and for the rest of their lives they will.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many people still walking free who have committed these crimes. And crucially, there are so many officials, people in the state, whether that's police officers, social workers, what have you, local councillors. Not a single one of them has ever been held to account for this. And that's something that I think she sees a national inquiry as writing, being able to essentially force people to come and give testimony in a way that hasn't been possible with a lot of these council-led inquiries that have taken place in specific towns. She also made the point, quite rightly, that the ICSA inquiry, the broad independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, didn't actually deal fundamentally with grooming gangs. That wasn't the focus. It looked at a lot of towns that were not really it didn't look at, Rotherham and Rochdale, but looked at many sort of southern towns which were less affected by this. So Labour's line that there's no need for an inquiry, I think that's what she's trying to tackle. That's what she's trying to challenge. And I think
she'll have a lot of support for that.
She will absolutely have a lot of support. And I think she's trying to... she puts this basically as a piece of... One of the themes of her leadership is that she was not going to be beholden to political correctness. In the past, when she was a minister, she bulldozed the charges of transphobia, for instance, when taking on the scandal at the Tavistock. Here she says, I don't care if you call me racist, I know this is the right thing to do. And I think that's potentially quite powerful.
Yeah. What did you make of when she said that... it's peasants from sub-communities within some countries that are behind the grooming gangs abuse that has scarred Britain? Well, we haven't heard that kind of rhetoric yet, have we?
No, we haven't. But I think it is important to be specific about what is going on. So, there's a lot of the time we talk about Asian grooming gangs. Well, what do we mean by Asians? Many of them are from Pakistan, but she's become even more specific, and she's saying that actually, if you look at the breakdown of some of these people, they are from very rural areas within Pakistan, often, you know, with some quite backward attitudes. And that's not to say that people can't change, they can't be integrated, but there clearly hasn't been an effort to integrate these people. And then, when they have committed terrible crimes, they've just simply been allowed to get away with it. That's why this has been able to carry on for so long, because people hear and find out that, you know, you can do this terrible thing and no one's going to punish you.
Fraser Myers, thank you very much.
Thanks, Fraser, and thank you to Fraser for bringing a bit of Parisian chic
Or
to
Essex
the
chic,
programme
as I was
today.
saying.
No, it looks, you know, very nice. What would you describe that you're wearing today?
How would I describe what I'm wearing? It's a nice cashmere roll neck.
It is cashmere, I can
Yeah, it's
tell
full
the
cashmere.
quality.
I love a bit of cashmere.
So do I.
It's nice and warm in the winter.
Yeah.
And is it crew neck, or how would you describe that neck?
Roll neck.
Roll neck. Oh, yes. Fraser, you're the man.
You've got us all
Yeah.
talking this morning,
Got us talking.
Fraser, about your wardrobe. Very good. And when I say you look Essex, that is the highest regard.
That's how I'm going to take the compliment.
I'm thinking of maybe copying that, doing that.
You should. You know, it's nice layered with a blazer.
Yeah, I was a bit troubled. Moobs.
Stop.
Moobs. I would have too much. Moobs would be my problem. They would hold me back on that. Thank you very much,
Anyway,
Nick Fraser.
Fraser, thank you very much.
15 minutes, coming up to 16 minutes now past 6 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. However you're watching, however you're listening, thank you for your company here on Breakfast with Eamonn and Ellie.
Now let's head over to the US, where Los Angeles officials have said severe fire weather conditions will continue until tomorrow.
24 people have been killed so far. Thousands evacuated as fires rage on. 23 people, all adults, remain missing. More than 92,000 are currently under evacuation orders.
Well, host of the People Politics podcast, Paul Duddridge, joins us live now from Los Angeles. Good to see you, Paul. What's the situation on the ground where you are?
Once again, I think you covered it very well. Those are the worst statistics, the 24 fatalities, which are dreadful, 150,000 evacuations. But more worryingly right now, that original fire we met last week about the original fire is still only 14% contained. The biggest fire that everybody's hearing about, the Palisades fire, is 14% contained. And tonight we are due for another bout of the Santa Ana winds. And this combination of fire and the Santa Ana winds, which are a very dry wind coming in from Utah and Nevada, they fuel the progression of these fires. This is why they've been able to spread so quickly and so violently. The actual expression I'm hearing from the Met Office, or the equivalent over here, is we can expect tonight explosive fire growth. That's what the potential is, explosive fire growth. So just when you think things are perhaps getting a little bit better, overnight now we are due 70-mile-an-hour winds, which will fuel a fire that is still only 14% contained after a week.
Paul, I watched a documentary on BBC last night about the fires, and it was so depressing, really, where we had to look. People now left with nothing, absolutely nothing. And I was thinking in my life, you know, when you would go to your insurance company and you would say, you know, we need some compensation for this, whatever. Where would you have your documentation? Where would you begin with anything at all with all of this? It really is. I really feel what I'm saying, Paul, is I just feel for the people who walk amongst these ruins, and you just look at them and you think, what next? You haven't even got a suitcase with clothes in it. What? It's so despairing.
And the contrast with the usual luxury of these areas is really stark. Absolutely. There is nothing there. These blocks, these acres and acres of house. Look at this. You know, you're seeing the former Malibu, Palisades. These are huge conurbations. These are huge. They're called cities here. We have a different meaning of the word city, but these huge cities across Los Angeles, gone, completely gone. And as you say, people are being left with absolutely nothing. This moved so quickly that day, that Tuesday night, because of the 100-mile-an-hour winds, that yes, people were left with no chance to even gather personal belongings because, again, literally evacuate. It used to be we're used to wildfires. We've had wildfires in Malibu as recently as just a couple of months ago. And so, yes, people will go through the procedure of evacuating, but that might just be to drive out of the neighborhood. The actual block disappearing behind them this is unprecedented. And anybody that's coming on, I've heard a few commentators say this is not unprecedented. It is unprecedented. They have gone. These structures have gone. People's lives have completely disappeared. And you make a very good point. The bureaucracy that's going to have to be engaged subsequent to all this, just literally tracing documents for insurance, it's going to be impossible. This is going to take years and years and years to rectify, even if that's possible.
Paul, talking about rebuilding, we're seeing pictures, we've just seen pictures as well, live pictures of buildings being destroyed. Why are so many buildings in Los Angeles built with wood? I mean, it is somewhere where wildfires are increasing. Yeah, I think it's something like 90% of houses in the US are built with wood. Do you think that will be rethought after these wildfires?
Well, no, I don't know very many things, but I think I know this one. It's because we're an earthquake zone. Oh. And literally, I mean, we had a San Francisco earthquake on like the Wednesday or the Thursday. We had a few days ago. In the midst of all these fires, San Francisco had a 3.9 earthquake. So we get earthquakes, and the buildings. It's better to have a wood building fall down than a brick building. So in the part of Los Angeles, the downtown Hollywood, downtown Los Angeles, these are all like 1920s buildings built of brick before they realized what an earthquake zone it was, and they've all had to be retrofitted with like balancers and things. So yes, the buildings in Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, all these kind of areas you see on TV are made of wood so that they crumple and crack, as opposed to collapsing brick on everybody. Very prosaic answer, but that's the reason.
Yeah.
My friend, I wish we had more time to talk to you, but you convey the whole image of what people are going through very, very well. Thank you very much. We've got to leave it there. But Paul Duddridge, until the next time, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's just coming up to 22 minutes past 6. Let's get a look at the weather, shall we, with Aidan.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud today with drizzly rain in places, but some brighter spells will be had, especially towards the far south and southeast through the morning. A chilly start here, and eastern Scotland, northeast England seeing some cloud breaks for much of the day. But elsewhere, it's a largely cloudy picture. The cloud low enough to give some hill fog for Wales and the Pennines, some patchy drizzle, 1 or 2 spots of drizzle through the Midlands and East Anglia as well. The cloud tending to sink south so that most places by the afternoon are grey. 10 to 12 Celsius in the north and northwest, 8 or 9 further south. And the wind picks up later in the day across the north and northwest of Scotland. Gales developing in exposed locations. Patchy drizzle again for western Scotland. Low cloud here, but actually some breaks there developing to the east at times. Further south, across southwest Scotland, northwest England, again extensive low clouds, some hill fog and some drizzle. Northern Ireland, grey skies. But for the east coast, that's where we'll see some cloud breaks, although the cloud breaks in the south will become more limited by the evening as the low cloud spreads across much of the country. So generally cloudy skies as we go into the early hours of Wednesday. A lot of low cloud and hill fog to the west. Some patchy drizzle here and there. For many, though, it's a dry night, albeit with a lot of cloud cover. That cloud keeping the frost away, but 5 or 6 Celsius in the south, 8 to 10 further north. It's not a particularly warm start to Wednesday. It's a windy start, though, for the north and west of Scotland. Outbreaks of rain starting to approach here as the morning progresses. Showers for Shetland, but some brightness emerging across much of Scotland, Northern Ireland, northern and western England, as well as Wales. Low cloud remains for the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, and that spreads widely into Thursday and Friday. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We'll be serving you up Emma Raducanu. And
Your friend.
My friend, she's a great girl. Great girl. She's not very good, but she's a great girl. She won yesterday, did very, very well. Paul Coit with what's happening sports-wise right after this.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome. I think that's not in there.
The thing about you is you're here to present serious sport in the morning, and
yes.
it never sort of goes that way.
I know.
Now, the thing is, let's talk about, this is the Australian Open.
Yes.
And there's 60-odd people still left in the competition.
Yes.
There, of which...
Early days.
Of which Emma Raducanu is one of them.
She is. Well...
Cameron Norrie's there, yeah.
Well, he's out now.
Well, he's out.
Cameron Norrie's out. He got knocked out just after Emma Raducanu played. So she played about 2 or 3 o'clock this morning over in Australia. She beat the 26th seed, Ekaterina Alexandrova. Guess where she's from?
Czech Republic.
No, try again. She's Russian.
Russian.
Yes. 7-6, 7-6.
Well, we don't like that.
I thought they weren't allowed to play, the Russians.
No. They
are.
Money talks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. 15. So in the game, 15 double faults from Emma Raducanu. The serving was a little erratic, to say the least. First 2 service games, I mentioned this earlier, 5 aces and 4 double faults. So it's either great or it's terrible. Yeah, absolutely. So
that's all in the mind.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because you think, they've got to get this in. But this is what, like I said earlier, I don't understand how serving can be such a problem when it's so important in the game and it's something that doesn't really change. It's not like, my so-and-so backhand is not working as well, but the serving every
every time. You've got to serve every single game.
So, you know, as an amateur player, it's not very engaging. It's not very pleasant to face someone who can serve like a beast.
Yeah.
You know, just whips past you.
Absolutely.
You want a bit of being able to get it over the net and hit it back.
Exactly. Maybe badminton is the answer for you.
I mean, do you not
Badminton's fun.
Yeah.
What?
Badminton?
Yeah.
Badminton's a lovely game. It's a lovely game. I agree with you, yeah.
It's all in the wrist, though, that. You see the difference with that one. Jacob Fernley, beat Nick Kyrgios yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah, because Nick Kyrgios hadn't... Old mouthy Nick Kyrgios. During the game, I'll see if I can find some clips of this a little bit later, but during the game, Kyrgios, he was doing the underarm serve. He even did a shot round the back. I mean, the thing is, he's just taking the mick, and there's no need for that. But Jacob Fernley beat him, which is really good. So Kyrgios has been out since 2022, but Emma Raducanu is through to the next round. How far do you think she's going to go?
The final, and she
I love you, Ellie. That's great. She's going to win the final.
She did. What a comeback.
I'd love it if she did too.
Yeah. Naysayers to the side.
I still say she'll probably go out next round.
Eamonn.
She will. All right. Okay.
We'll see. We'll see.
Now, football tonight, Paul.
Yeah.
Some amazing ties, but Forest against Liverpool, Premier League.
OK, so Nottingham Forest against Liverpool. See, Forest have already beaten Liverpool. So Liverpool are top, Forest are third, and it really is, you know, they are just doing unbelievably well.
Yeah.
Hopefully we've got Nuno. Hopefully we've got a little bit of Nuno Espirito Santo, the Holy Ghost. We'll hear from him a little bit later. So they're playing, and if they win, then there'll be three. It's just unbelievable. It's just trying to work out how that Nottingham Forest were relegation fodder this time last year.
Yeah.
And also the other interesting thing is that they are now on exactly the same amount of points that Leicester were at this stage of the season when they won the title.
Are they the new Leicester?
They could well be.
They could well be.
I mean, we could say, they'll fall off. But the way things are going, there's no reason why they will.
He is a good manager. There's no doubt. But just
Holy Ghost.
Yeah, just amazing that it's all come together for them. Incredible. So we've also got, who have we got? We've got Brentford against Man City.
Right, absolutely.
West Ham, Fulham, interesting. Chelsea, Bournemouth.
Yep, and Forest, Liverpool, and big one, Spurs, Arsenal. Which is tomorrow night. Okay. That will be Wednesday night. Hear about Tyson Fury, by the way. Tyson Fury has...
1 minute he's fighting, next minute he's not.
Well, he's announced his retirement again. It's like Frank Sinatra used to retire, didn't he? It was like the farewell tour. Oh, Frank's back again. I think he retired for the first time when he was about 26. But Tyson Fury's doing the same thing. 37 fights, 34 wins, 1 draw, and 2 losses against Alexander Usyk. So...
He should have left it at the first retirement, gone out on a high.
But the thing is, that's the thing, is that what draws them in? Is it the love of the fight? Because the thing is that he's made so much money.
Yeah, it is the love of the fight.
His family, his kids, their kids will be set for life. He's made millions.
He doesn't know what to do with himself, I don't think.
I think that's it.
Without fighting.
That's the thing, without sport. They just don't know, and then they have to get drawn back in. So Anthony Joshua, this is the fight that everybody's talking about. That would be the ultimate fight, the Battle of the Brits at Wembley Stadium. But it's money, and I tell you, I still think that it will happen. I think all this talk of this is it, I've retired now, we've seen it before.
Just makes them more valuable to come out of retirement. Of course it does. And
they'll go, well, how about this? How about a billion? How about a trillion? How about a gazillion? OK, I'll do it.
Well, we'll not offer you that amount, but you will be out of retirement for 7:20.
And for £3.50. I'm quite happy to do that.
Good man. Thank you very much indeed. The Great British Giveaway.
Yes, £50,000 up for grabs. It could all be yours. Here are the details that you need.
Don't miss your chance to win our biggest cash prize ever. An incredible £50,000. That's tax-free cash to spend
What's making the news next? We're going to do that with Jonathan Ashworth and Lauren McKevitt, and a good watch and a good debate they are right after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In the Highland, the A832 is closed in both directions over Moy Bridge at Wester Moy because of flooding. The M90 in Perth and Kinross is closed in both directions between junctions 10 and 11 between Craigend and the A90 at Perth because of fire services activity. There's a fire beneath the bridge. The Port of Holyhead remains closed for emergency repairs with no sailings operating between Holyhead and Dublin. Sheffield Supertrams aren't running on the purple route or on the blue route between Sheffield Station and Hallam University and Gleadless Townend because of a track fault. The M5 in Devon is closed each way between junctions 28 and 26 between the Clumpton service area and Wellington because of overrunning roadworks. In Cornwall, the A30, the westbound entry slip road's closed at Kennard's House. Overnight roadworks have overrun.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We were talking earlier about the issue of Siri listening to you. Well, it's not just your own conversations being sort of harvested for data. But it's a problem with AI. So what seems to have happened yesterday is that Apple issued a alert saying that Luke Littler had won the darts before he had. I mean, imagine what would, if he then gone on to lose, how that would have looked. I mean, obviously, because he went on to win, at least they got the story right. But before it had happened. So what it seems to happen is that the AI farms existing stories. And what it has done, that's the alert. We can see the alert there. Now, and it also claiming that Brazilian tennis player Rafael Nadal had come out as gay when actually a different Brazilian tennis player was actually mentioned in the original story. So what it does is you see that it's branded as BBC Sport. What the Apple AI system does is it farms alerts that it thinks people are getting from the source and then summarises them into one. That's going to be my question. Into one alert.
Looks to me like you would assume, OK, the BBC are reporting this.
Absolutely.
So the BBC News might be saying something else.
So it could happen to any news organisation.
This has highlighted a massive issue. I mean, having editorial judgment and quality control, because if this is going on, it's just contributing to the flow of misinformation. Yes. And we know that this is a problem on social media, people reporting false things. But if it seems to come from trusted news sources, that is a massive issue in credibility. I mean, if you had something like Reuters, who's a big news provider, doing this, you could hold people accountable, you could make changes, but when it's the AI doing it, I mean, what do? You're going to have to reprogram it in some way.
And if you just lost control, if you're a news source, you've lost control of what goes out because it basically farms it, puts your logo on it, and sends it out, even when it's nonsense.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Now, here to debate stories in the news today, former Shadow Paymaster General Jonathan Ashworth, former Conservative Special Advisor Laura McKevitt. They were both former. They're now very current here reviewing the papers today, and they've got good views on things. Two lame ducks is the headline in the Daily Mail, front page of the Daily Mail. Jonathan, who are these lame ducks?
Well, I mean, this is according to the Daily Mail. I mean, I think it's nonsense, frankly, to suggest that Rachel Reeves is a lame duck. She's the Chancellor of the Exchequer, as you know. She will be the Chancellor of the Exchequer for the rest of this Parliament.
OK. Why didn't he just, when asked first, and he was asked again secondly, why couldn't he just say, yep, she's my woman, she's my person, she's going to be in charge? Instead, you go back and then your press office say, oh, you should have said she's definitely here, and then they redress the balance. Why could he not just say it straight away?
Well, he did say she was doing a good job, that he had confidence in her. He
didn't say she was still doing her job.
Well, I mean, I interpreted that as she's staying in the job. And then journalists asked somebody called the Prime Minister's spokesperson. The viewers might not realise this, but every day the journalists troop along to listen to the Prime Minister's sort of head press officer answer questions. And at that session, the Prime Minister's head press officer said, no, she is staying in her job. and she will be staying in her job. So I just think this is all a bit of froth. So of course she's going to be there.
The head press officer decides what government policy is going to be as opposed to the Prime Minister.
No, Prime Minister decides, but it's what happens. It's
Why didn't he say? That's what I'm saying.
Well, he said she's doing a good job. He's behind her. I think this is a bit of a storm in a teacup.
Lauren, he didn't seem overly enthusiastic. That's the problem.
Well, I mean, it may be different under the new regime, but under the old regime, the Prime Minister's spokesman was a civil servant. And some of these questions are difficult for civil service press officers versus political press officers, and that could be where we've entered a slightly dangerous sort of arena for that civil servant, if that's who it was. But I also think that Keir Starmer has some pretty poor communications instincts, and I think I disagree with Jonathan. I don't think that this is a storm in a teacup. I think that the press are, going for a sort of gotcha moment, a scalp of, oh, you're going to fire your chancellor, oh, we're going to get a big sacking, within a year. But there are very serious economic grounds to be looking at that are not going well. The pound is absolutely cratering.
Is that her fault?
The bond markets are not convinced that the economic future of...
But how much of this does she contribute to?
Well, after the budget, she sets sort of the direction of travel here. And it's not clear that we can get to a spring statement or even a spending review in the summer without another direction of travel being presented in order to stop some of the bleeding here. And some of that has to do with, the markets being a bit nervous about national insurance hikes and the cost of doing business going up, and the workers' rights bill coming through that, the head of the CBI has been criticising over the course of the last 24 hours or so. There are a lot of economic indicators that are very worrying. I would say they aren't as bad as what Liz Truss did in 2022. I don't think we're quite there yet.
The gilts are higher
but
than they were under Liz Truss.
They are... I think that this is not a great time for Rachel to be, unsure about her future. But what I think is interesting is she went to China last week. She didn't bring any journalists with her, which I think is an enormous mistake. We have to hold China to account in a really big way. And she signed off on £600 million worth of investment over 5 years. That's probably the weakest deal with China that we've had out of any of the big trade missions that have gone out in 15 and 17. And she came back championing that as having been a success, and I don't think it was. So I think that there's lots of little things contributing to a not great narrative about the Chancellor at the moment, which is not good for her in the long run. And she's got a deputy who's being investigated for corruption. So.
Well, yes, that leads us on to Tulip Sadiq very neatly there. Lauren, what do you make of that, Jonathan?
Well, I mean, she can't be blamed for who our relations are. She's related to the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, who had to leave that post in Bangladesh, and there's all kinds of investigations and so on into her. But she's now been being looked into by the government's advisor on ministerial standards. So he will report on whether she's broken the ministerial code or not. So there is an inquiry, and of course, I don't know how long this inquiry takes. I don't think they take very long, as it happens, these inquiries, to be fair. And I suspect when we see the outcome of that inquiry, that will really decide the future of that minister.
Jonathan, could you tell us or try and explain this story in Spain? So if you are British and you own a property there could be a big tax bill coming your way.
Yeah, well, I can't fully explain it in truth, but as I understand it, what the Spanish authorities are looking at is that for anyone who buys properties in Spain in the future, so I don't think this is current property owners, I think, based on the reading in the UK press, that you'll be subject to 100% tax. So if it's a non-EU national, and of course we're not in the EU anymore, and apparently a lot of people from Mexico and Venezuela are now buying properties in Mallorca and Malaga and so on, you'll be subject to 100% tax. I don't know. However, I've read the newspapers. When it says 100%, I'm not sure if it's 100% of the property price or something else. It's not very clear in the newspapers.
Well, it could be 100% of the council tax value. You pay, instead of paying a rated amount on a council tax, you might have to pay, 100% on it if it's a second home. The government in Wales are doing similar things with council tax. We've obviously had a big council tax shift in Pembrokeshire over the last year. Yeah, it's not unheard of to do things like this.
But it's been the papers suggest that there is a tax, a percentage tax on the value of the property, so it's a bit unclear in the newspapers. But basically what it's about is, in Spain, they feel that there's too many people coming in, buying up holiday homes when they've got a housing crisis.
We're going to go to the break now, and we are asking you, if you're interested, where the good weather is. We're going to tell you now with this forecast, and then we're going to be back and we're talking about those grooming rape gangs right after this.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you are searching for any winter sun, you'll find it in Iberia, but it's going to be breezy in the Canaries and there'll be further showers across much of Greece. Cyprus is looking fine and warmer than average for the time of year. This area of low pressure bringing some showery rain to the south of Italy and Sicily. Balearics, Spain, Portugal, mostly fine, plenty of sunshine, but an area of showers will approach here during Thursday and Friday, making it feel a little cooler.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
With the dawn of the new year come new opportunities for the stage. Stefan Kyriazis joins us now to share how he started 2025.
We've got Sigourney Weaver, Hollywood star, coming in as Prospero in The Tempest. It's an experience. Sigourney Weaver has got this kind of patrician presence. She's always on stage, sat watching or stalking the area, but she doesn't quite get the Shakespearean rhythms for me. We've got more trauma for you, and we've got a little clip to run first. Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. I don't know how people's Christmases were with their families, but this is a very unhappy family, so you can feel good about your family, whatever they're like. This is Tennessee Williams' deeply unhappy story of a family in sort of Plantation South. The patriarch, Big Daddy, is dying, although he doesn't know it yet. Everyone is manoeuvring around him. Everyone is pretty unpleasant, pretty unhappy. It's all based on nobody really telling the truth. Everyone's suppressing things.
Got one more thing for us?
We do, and suddenly sunshine, life, joy. It's Nutcracker, but in Havana. Which is from Carlos Acosta. It's a very Cuban feel. And again, we've got a lovely little clip to cheer us all up. Good. That. There was no Christmas when he was growing up. Castro had banned it all. So we've got this setting in Cuba, and instead of magicians, you've got the uncle coming back from Miami, loads of presents. It's just full of joy. And you've got a reworked music. I love the Tchaikovsky score to death. But this one has been added, so you've got kind of Caribbean flutes and lutes and guitars. Huge exuberance, colourful, bright.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Jonathan and Lauren going through the papers with us this morning. And Lauren, there's a girl's picture over most of the papers today, and that's, I can't see it with my eyes, Keena Dawes, and who committed suicide. And this is about her boyfriend, Ryan Wellings, who just seemed to be into abuse and whatever. And what the idea was to try and convict him of contributing to her death, which didn't happen yesterday.
Yeah, this is a devastating story. This 23-year-old has killed herself after some significant domestic abuse by her partner. And this ties into something that I saw yesterday from Vera Baird, the former Victims Commissioner, talking about research coming out of Warwick University about how more women who are victims of domestic abuse kill themselves and are actually murdered by their partners, but police are not making the link between the two issues, and therefore the amount that we know about women who die as a result of having a domestic partner, whether or not they're killing themselves or being killed, is actually not good enough. And part of that has got to be the fact that it's very hard to convict on something like this.
Yeah.
I mean, there are stories, quite often about children who have been driven to suicide by online bullying, and I think that this is in a sort of a similar category, and it's possible we need to look at how we legislate for this.
Whether this man is guilty or innocent or whatever, that within no time at all, he's able to get another partner. And one would have thought that she's surely saying, if you've any connection with this, or you're accused of these things and we see you drunk in your car, slagging this girl off, whatever, why would anybody want anything to do with them?
That one I can't answer.
He'll be a manipulator.
Yeah.
He'll be a master manipulator. How would you get a girl to live with you if you're that way inclined? It would be the only reason. I think that one of the biggest questions would be where were the police and why were they not intervening? It's something like 12 months before Keena committed suicide, she'd called the police 5 times, either to report that she'd been assaulted or to give details of the abuse that she just suffered. On 4 of those occasions, she was visited at home, and she displayed visible injuries. She had a black eye when she was 6 months pregnant.
I think, and this ties into when we talk about the grooming gangs issue, the state in the United Kingdom, and I mean the United Kingdom because I do think that this is a Scotland issue as well, I think the state is poor at protecting women and girls. We have been poor at this for a very long time. It's very hard to see how we get better at it. Police are very much behind in how they deal with tech in relation to abuse and rape charges. We hear stories about women handing over a phone and not getting it back for 3 years because of the delays and the police not being, frankly, not being equipped to deal with the tech involved in some of these issues. Obviously, the last Conservative government, quite early on, I think it was actually the coalition government, put coercive control on the statute books as a form of domestic abuse for the first time. And it's hard to see how we got from that point, which is a real high point in how we deal with domestic abuse in this, certainly in the England and Wales system, from that point to the point where we can't convict a man who has so clearly been so appalling to his spouse that she's killed herself. I don't understand how we...
Terrible, heartbreaking story. Jonathan, in London, we're hearing that there could be more posties from an Amazon point of view in order to limit or cut carbon emissions, but that they could put more people on foot delivering their parcels.
This is really interesting because more and more people now obviously are using Amazon and buying their shopping online or buying gifts online. And it's interesting that in London they're talking about putting their Amazon workers on foot. There are now parts of the country, I think Milton Keynes is one part of the country, where there's robots delivering parcels. Or you'll see these, well, they call them robots. You'll see these little things sort of bundling down the street.
Yes.
Sort of
robots.
Yeah, I mean, technically they're a robot, but when I think of a robot, I think of a sort of...
a humanoid robot.
Yeah, sort of humanoid thing, sort of, Lost in Space style robot. But actually, they're sort of... little sort of carriages, little
droids,
boxes,
like Star Wars droid type.
Well, they're not even that. They're like a little sort of, like a box on wheels, delivering parcels in places like Milton Keynes and other bits of the country. So I think this is just another example of how the world is changing. Online shopping is completely changing the way in which we all live our lives, the way things.
But I think Milton Keynes lends itself to something like that. This is a newly designed town.
Yeah. Exactly, that's why they're in Milton Keynes.
And I really do think that a town like that really does lend itself towards a piece of tech like that. When I think back, our postie in Gloucestershire is a guy called Dave. He's fantastic. Everyone knows who he is. But I'm not sure that he could be replaced by one of these little droid things.
No.
Well, Lauren, we'll not replace you, but we'll bring you back at 22:08, OK? All that to come after the weather.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud today with drizzly rain in places, but some brighter spells will be had, especially towards the far south and southeast through the morning. A chilly start here, and eastern Scotland, northeast England seeing some cloud breaks for much of the day. But elsewhere, it's a largely cloudy picture. The cloud low enough to give some hill fog for Wales and the Pennines, some patchy drizzle, 1 or 2 spots of drizzle through the Midlands and East Anglia as well. The cloud tending to sink south so that most places by the afternoon are grey. 10 to 12 Celsius in the north and northwest, 8 or 9 further south. And the wind picks up later in the day across the north and northwest of Scotland. Gales developing in exposed locations. Patchy drizzle again for western Scotland. Low cloud here, but actually some breaks there developing to the east at times. Further south, across southwest Scotland, northwest England, again extensive low clouds, some hill fog and some drizzle. Northern Ireland, grey skies. But for the east coast, that's where we'll see some cloud breaks, although the cloud breaks in the south will become more limited by the evening as the low cloud spreads across much of the country. So generally cloudy skies as we go into the early hours of Wednesday. A lot of low cloud and hill fog to the west. Some patchy drizzle here and there. For many, though, it's a dry night, albeit with a lot of cloud cover. That cloud keeping the frost away, but 5 or 6 Celsius in the south, 8 to 10 further north. It's not a particularly warm start to Wednesday. It's a windy start, though, for the north and west of Scotland. Outbreaks of rain starting to approach here as the morning progresses. Showers for Shetland, but some brightness emerging across much of Scotland, Northern Ireland, northern and western England, as well as Wales. Low cloud remains for the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, and that spreads widely into Thursday and Friday. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In the Highland, the A832 is closed each way over Moy Bridge because of flooding. The M90 in Perth and Kinross is closed each way over Friarton Bridge between junctions 10 and 11 between Craigend and Perth because of a fire underneath the bridge. The Port of Holyhead remains closed for repairs, with sailing suspended again today between Holyhead and Dublin. On the M18 in South Yorkshire, 2 lanes are closed northbound after an accident between junctions 1 and 2 from Bramley to the A1M. Slope towards and past there. Sheffield Supertram services aren't running on the purple route or on the blue route between Clevis Town End and Sheffield Station and Hallam University. That's because of a track fault at Park Grange. And in Cornwall on the A30, the westbound entry slip road's closed from the A395 at Kennard's House, where overnight roadworks have overrun. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Kemi Badenoch slams grooming gangs.
I'm not afraid to look into this. I don't care what people call me, whether they say I'm jumping on a far-right bandwagon.
What you've got there is a GB News exclusive. The Conservative leader labels abusers peasants from sub-communities.
While Kemi Badenoch also called for immediate deportation and imprisonment for foreign criminals.
Treasury turmoil. The Prime Minister gives a lukewarm backing to his Chancellor amid economic chaos.
I'm confident in our mission for growth, and I'm confident, completely confident in my team.
A spy in the palace. Newly unsealed MI5 files reveal what the late Queen did, or crucially did not know, about a KGB spy working at Buckingham Palace.
Toxic TV, controversial programme Love Island returns to your screens, but is the show doing you more harm than good? We're debating whether reality TV is toxic in this hour.
And bin workers walk off the job in Birmingham as union bosses pledge to cause huge disruption to the city.
And in the sport this morning, Emma Raducanu's through to the next round of the Australian Open as Cameron Norrie is knocked out. Non-league teams are hoping to change the FA Cup rules. And I tell you, it's like the 1970s again as Nottingham Forest take on Liverpool in a top-of-the-table clash.
A lot of cloud across the UK this morning, but some bright spells are expected in one or two spots. After the full forecasts coming up very soon.
Very good to have you on board, whether you're watching or listening. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Ellie.
Taking your calls and your comments on the state of your bins. Are they emptied? Should the bin operatives be paid more? Should they be looked after better? Is it a job you would do or maybe that you have done before?
Yeah, and Paul, you've found something very interesting. Completely different in the papers, haven't you?
You know I like an auction.
Yes,
and I've bought some strange things at auction before you have as well, haven't you, Eamonn?
Yeah, well, Ellie would throw this in the bin that you're coming up with now.
How about this? Admiral Lord Nelson's hair.
No.
Cut. I mean, is this a bit spooky? Cut as he lay dying during the Battle of Trafalgar, so someone's gone, oh, we'll just have a little bit of that there. In 1805, is on sale in Jersey, and it's a little cup. How much would you pay for the hair?
No, nothing. It would go in the bin, straight in the bin.
What, even? What? Nelson? That's very disrespectful to the British culture and heritage.
I think it's disrespectful that he lay there dying and someone thought, we'll take a quick strip
Well,
of
maybe they just had, maybe they thought, you know, because there's obviously the famous painting, isn't there, of the Battle of Trafalgar. Maybe they thought, we'll give him a quick haircut, and then they kept their £15,000. 15 grand.
Where's
for a
the
lock of
hair come from? What part of the body?
His head, Eamonn.
Well, it could be his underarm. I don't know. You know, it depends.
Hold on, let me have a little look.
You would bid
very
more.
curly. I think it's his. I think it's his head. It's his head. What?
You would bid more for his head than say his underarm.
Well, I think so. Yeah, I would hope so. Yeah.
Or anywhere else.
I would hope so. A little less whiffy there, the head hair. And there it is. And it's in a little pot.
No.
And the only way you can probably find out is if you DNA test it, I guess. It's definitely his.
Whoever pays for that is bonkers.
Well,
that's creepy.
I was
really
seriously tempted to make a bid for a toupee, not for me, but as worn by John Wayne.
John Wayne's wig?
Yeah.
Why?
Wow.
Why?
Well, why I didn't get it was my wife said to me, that is not coming into the house.
Well, she's right.
She was freaked out by it. She said it'd be full of little insects and all sorts of things. But it was in a box.
Full of insects?
Well, yeah.
John Wayne, he wouldn't have things.
But it was very funny. It wasn't like a wig or anything. It was a toupee.
Was it? It was a hair system. Did it have like a big parting down the side? Was it?
No. You just went on the top.
Right. Oh, okay.
Question: what would you have done with this toupee? Because you don't need it.
Oh, but I'd have put it in a glass cabinet.
Yeah, that's weird.
And I would have looked at all the famous lines from True Grit I would have thought about.
Yeah.
Which I can't repeat in telly because he often used words that people can be easily offended.
Sure, yeah.
But
I would pay to go and see it. Yeah.
No. OK, so both of you are really weird.
OK,
Very creepy. Anyway, let us know if you pay, was it 15 grand?
15 grand for
a lock of Nelson's
That's only the
hair.
asking price. You don't know where.
Oh, yeah, it could go for more. It probably will go for more.
Well, keep
That
it
hair is
posted.
history.
Where'd
That
you
hair
get-
is our
where'd
history.
you get yours from?
I would probably pay. Oh, well, I'd have it implanted. I'd get.
They do those very well.
I know.
I mean, I know all the TV
rearranging.
people.
Yes.
You can turn on, and the footballers who have it as well.
Yeah.
Some of it, though, is really obvious because you can tell that they've gone bald, and then they get this bit stuck in the middle or implanted in the middle. But they do grow, and they take very well.
Well, I went to an Elvis auction and I bought, they actually had a lock of Elvis's hair. So maybe I could have a bit of Elvis here.
Yes.
And then a bit of Lord Nelson here.
Bit of John Wayne at the
bit of John Wayne at the back.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's
Make a
true,
nice
Hollywood.
blend. Nice
Wouldn't it look?
cocktail on your head.
I think I'd
Very
absolutely
good, very good. Okay.
Right, anyway, let us know.
If you have ever bought a wig,
It's disgusting. Absolutely
You're all
disgusting.
mad.
let us know. Right, the time 6 minutes now past 7 o'clock.
And politics now, and GB News national reporter Charlie Peters has sat down for an exclusive bombshell interview with the Tory leader Kemi Badenoch. They spoke about the scandal that has horrified so many people. Here's what she had to say.
I'm not afraid to look into this. I don't care what people call me, whether they say I'm jumping on a far-right bandwagon or I'm just doing it for politics. This is something that I've been talking about for a while. I said it in my big leadership speech. This was something I wanted to look at. But if you look at it, there is a systematic pattern of behaviour, not even just from one country, but from sub-communities within those countries, people with a particular background, particular class background, work background.
What background is that?
You know, people very, very poor sort of peasant background, very, very rural. This is about those victims who deserve justice, the survivors who deserve justice.
Talk about what she had to say very shortly, but also a spokesperson for Keir Starmer has confirmed, and they've strengthened up his situation after his hesitancy of not supporting or speaking about Rachel Reeves yesterday. He then went on to say she's brilliant, she's fantastic, and he says she'll stay on as Chancellor until the next general election. OK, so in the studio now, we're delighted to welcome back Fraser Myers with his take on these things. Let's start with the Kemi Badenoch situation. What is she saying? How strong was she with all of this?
Well, she has really come out swinging against this. She has made some really important points that I think have been overlooked. One is that this is not simply a historic scandal. These crimes have been ongoing. And in many cases, there are many people who have not been brought to justice, not just the perpetrators, but also public officials, people in the police forces, people who are social workers, people who work at local councils. Those people have never really faced any kind of reckoning. They've never been subjected to an inquiry where they have been made to testify under oath or anything like that. So I think she is doing something quite important in highlighting that really the Labour line, Keir Starmer's line, that all of this actually was dealt with the ICSA inquiry into broader sexual abuse, or can be dealt with through local inquiries, as was done in places like Oldham. That line is starting to unravel, and that's what Kemi Badenoch is attacking quite successfully.
I would say she's tapping into what the majority of people think on this as well.
That's absolutely right. And there was polling to show that, more than 70% of the public think there needs to be a national inquiry into this. I think, last week when Keir Starmer essentially said that those politicians calling for an inquiry, talking about the Conservatives, were jumping on a far-right bandwagon, I think that was probably one of the most misjudged things he has ever said, and has never looked so out of touch with public opinion. The strength of feeling among the public about this issue is absolutely extraordinary, and quite rightly so, because a grotesque crime has been committed on a massive scale, and justice, frankly, has not been done.
Yeah, and the public anger is getting worse by the day as you hear whistleblowers like Maggie Oliver, as we heard yesterday, talking about her evidence being redacted.
Yeah.
Something like 50, 60 pages worth of evidence she handed over to the ICSA inquiry, redacted down to just 12 to 14 pages.
And it seems as if every time there has been an inquiry, things have been redacted or omitted. So not just that, in terms of the ICSA inquiry, there was a report in the Times yesterday saying that senior officers were basically not talked about in, I think it was the Rotherham inquiry. So again and again, even the inquiries feel as if they are sort of part of the part of the cover-up in a weird way. So we do need to get to the bottom of this. And I think, you know, a lot of the public anger is also incomprehension. People simply cannot understand why police officers, why police forces thought it was more important not to appear racist than it was to protect these girls. They cannot understand how they saw these vulnerable girls as not worthy of their attention or protection.
Well, if you pay them your attention now, and you were saying as an official, you've committed this heinous crime against a young girl, and we're going to send you back where you came from, they won't be able to do that.
Well, yes, but that's unfortunately, people are not being deported even when they've committed these crimes. I mean, it came to light recently, last week, I think it was in the Daily Mail, one of the Rochdale gang leaders who had essentially led a gang. He was not only given a slap on the wrist when he was arrested and sent through the court system, sentenced to 6 years, got out in 2.5. He was ordered to be deported 10 years ago.
Yeah.
He's still living in the country, still living in the same city.
That's the way it'll be. And would it change if we weren't connected to the European, whatever it's called?
The European Convention on Human Rights?
Yeah.
I think one thing that has allowed is for people to make endless appeals to totally delay their deportation. So, you know, the order has been given to deport this man, for instance, and he has failed in every chance at his appeal. Yes, I think, you know, it would smooth things if we should get rid of, leave the European Convention on Human Rights. I think it would make it easier to solve these problems. But also there is simply a problem more broadly with the British system, with the state's capacity to deport people. We often agree that we should deport people. Judges will say this person should be deported, and then nothing happens, and then they go back into the community and they're free to commit more heinous crimes or live their lives, you know, unmolested in a way that shouldn't be allowed.
Can we talk about Rachel Reeves? We've got the stuttering economy, and then the Prime Minister was asked yesterday twice, will she be Chancellor by the time the next election comes around? He didn't answer. It came to Downing Street spokesperson to clarify that several hours later.
He didn't answer then, he did through the spokesperson.
Several hours later, only because all of the papers had caught wind of it by then. What's going on? Do you think she can hang on?
Well, yeah, it's funny. First, he gave a sort of non-answer, and then his spokesperson has given an answer that is a panicky response that is so over the top, saying how much confidence there is in Rachel Reeves. She will last to the end of the Parliament. She's doing a fantastic job. I'm not sure she is doing a fantastic job. You know, let's look at on just about every metric you look at. We had no growth in the last quarter. The story at the moment is that borrowing costs have reached a 15-year high. The pound has slid to a 14-month low. If that is Keir Starmer's definition of a fantastic job, then the UK economy is in deep trouble. I mean, Starmer has been ruthless in the past.
And slippery and snake-like, you know.
Absolutely.
So we wouldn't believe a word that comes out of his mouth, really, in terms of loyalty or standing by someone.
And he would, and you get the sense that he would be prepared to do anything to save his own skin. You know, think of Sue Gray, who was famously sacked not that long ago. And actually, even his first Shadow Chancellor, Annalise Dodds, was sacked and replaced with Rachel Reeves. I suppose what people are pausing on is the fact that Rachel and Starmer do have a closer relationship.
They're very intertwined.
Starmer, I think, sees her as restoring Labour's economic credibility ahead of the election. Credibility that is now completely torn to pieces, of course, but certainly she was part of the big prawn cocktail offensive and getting business on side and, you know, making people feel that it wasn't a risk to vote Labour. I think Starmer doesn't really have any strong views about the economy. He came into politics late in life. He doesn't have particularly... he has allowed her, I think, to shape the government's economic policy.
Well, whatever he thinks, we're asking you this morning in our poll of the day, do you think that Rachel Reeves will still be Chancellor at the next election?
OK, Fraser Myers, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll bring you the live results on that poll throughout the day. Make sure you stay tuned. As always, the final result will be announced later in Martin Daubney's show. If you want to get involved, just scan the QR code on your screen now or go to the website gbnews.com/poll.
If you were getting involved, if you were casting your vote there, what would that vote be? Will she still be in charge come the next election?
Come the next election, I think her chances are not good. Will she be sacked this week, though? I would say less. I'd probably not, but...
OK. Look at some other stories coming into the newsroom on this Tuesday morning. Joe Biden has claimed a Gaza ceasefire and hostage deal is on the brink of happening. In his final foreign policy speech from the White House, he said the deal would also include a surge of aid to Palestinians. A round of Gaza ceasefire talks will be held in Doha today to finalise the remaining details of any deal.
Spain is to hit British expats with a 100% tax on their holiday homes in the country under new measures to fix the country's housing crisis. It's part of 12 controversial reforms announced by the Spanish Prime Minister. The tax will be for non-EU citizens who don't already live in Spain or are buying homes in the country.
The NHS will expand its bowel cancer screening programme to include all people aged 50 and over. The initiative will make around 850,000 more people in England alone eligible for screening. It will aim to detect early signs of bowel cancer, potentially saving thousands of lives.
And that's the front page of the Times this morning. Bowel Babe, as you remember her, this is something that she was...
Not the front page of the Times. The
front page of the Sun, you know what I'm trying to say. Front page of the Sun this morning, Bowel Babe, as you remember her. This is something that she was campaigning for before she died in 2020.
You know, right up to her death. I was with her 3 weeks before she died. And, that was her. It was always about getting the word out, spreading the gospel on all of this.
Job.
So amazing.
And what a legacy. I mean, what she called for has happened.
Yeah.
A bit years later.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at what your weather picture will be today. It's mostly sunny, I think, over the country, but we'll find out.
We don't even need to speak to Aidan, do we?
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud today with drizzly rain in places, but some brighter spells will be had, especially towards the far south and southeast through the morning. A chilly start here, and eastern Scotland, northeast England seeing some cloud breaks for much of the day. But elsewhere, it's a largely cloudy picture. The cloud low enough to give some hill fog for Wales and the Pennines, some patchy drizzle, 1 or 2 spots of drizzle through the Midlands and East Anglia as well. The cloud tending to sink south so that most places by the afternoon are grey. 10 to 12 Celsius in the north and northwest, 8 or 9 further south. And the wind picks up later in the day across the north and northwest of Scotland. Gales developing in exposed locations. Patchy drizzle again for western Scotland. Low cloud here, but actually some breaks there developing to the east at times. Further south, across southwest Scotland, northwest England, again extensive low clouds, some hill fog and some drizzle. Northern Ireland, grey skies. But for the east coast, that's where we'll see some cloud breaks, although the cloud breaks in the south will become more limited by the evening as the low cloud spreads across much of the country. So generally cloudy skies as we go into the early hours of Wednesday. A lot of low cloud and hill fog to the west. Some patchy drizzle here and there. For many, though, it's a dry night, albeit with a lot of cloud cover. That cloud keeping the frost away, but 5 or 6 Celsius in the south, 8 to 10 further north. It's not a particularly warm start to Wednesday. It's a windy start, though, for the north and west of Scotland. Outbreaks of rain starting to approach here as the morning progresses. Showers for Shetland, but some brightness emerging across much of Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern and Western England, as well as Wales. Low cloud remains for the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, and that spreads widely into Thursday and Friday. Bye-bye.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
What about sponsors of £50,000, which comes from us to you with love?
Yeah, it could all be yours in our biggest Great British giveaway so far. Here are all of the details that you need.
Now, next in the programme, we're talking about reality TV shows, particularly Love Island, which I think starts again.
Well, it started last night.
Well, I can honestly say I've never in my life seen an episode.
Probably for the best.
Doesn't you're into it?
I'm not into it, no. I mean, if it was on, I'd watch it. Yeah, it's fine. But it's not something I'm a big fan of. I think it can be toxic.
Well, a lot of youngsters, when I say youngsters, I mean, you know, people 35 and under watch it and they're quite addicted to it. But are they influenced by it? What do they take in about it? We're going to be debating that. Is it good, a good watch, or is it just bad for you to watch it after this?
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And fashionistas are keen to see which new trends are set to hit the catwalk.
Well, our next guest is very well placed to share her predictions with us after being a contestant on hit ITV series Dress the Nation, as well as being an upcycling and sewing consultant.
Wow. Joining us now is Tendai Murewe. I want to go back to you appearing on the ITV Dress the Nation.
Right.
Tell us about that experience. What was that like?
Oh, that was one of my highlights as an upcycling consultant. I learned to sew in my kitchen 5 years ago. And then, you know, during COVID, just making masks. Then the next thing I was on a Dress the Nation, making dresses in front of TV. Yeah, it was just incredible. I think we all had all these clothes that we have, but we don't know what to do with them. So mainly I started with men's jackets, taking off the sleeves and putting it like a print on.
I've tried this. I've tried taking off my sleeves before. I now have about 3 jackets with no sleeves. I never managed to put them back on.
You need to come to a workshop. You need to come to a workshop.
I need an upcycling consultant. 2025, what can we expect fashion-wise?
I think bold prints are back. People are loving. I think you walk on the streets in frollals and oversized men's jackets.
So the exact opposite. We have drastically underperformed this morning. You're just saying not like us.
We just woke up this morning and thought it's winter, it's cold, it's grey.
Grey, miserable.
Is that not the way to go?
No, it is. It's still, I think because fashion is expressive. It's whatever you want to express yourself. You know?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. It's 7:24. Now, the popular dating show Love Island made a return to our screens last night.
Contestants this year have been associated with cheating, drug dealing, and an attack in a nightclub.
Well, it brings into question, are these shows toxic?
OK, so we're asking, have reality shows like Love Island made us immoral?
Well, with us now to debate this is TV personality and former singer Kerry Katona and Director of Affinity at Gospel Churches, Graham Nichols. Good to see you both this morning. Kerry, let's start with you, shall we? I mean, we just listed there. It's not the best example that we're setting to young people watching the show, is it?
Actually sounds like the title of my third autobiography, to be honest with you. You see, I'm 44, and I do believe that for the younger generation, I've got 4 girls and 1 boy, and my 22-year-old got asked to do Love Island when she turned 18. Now, what I would have loved my Lily to have done it, because Lily's very much like me. She's one of these girls who's very relaxed, very chilled. She's not all prim and proper, and I think that's what that kind of show's needed. Whereas these young girls now, they all actually look the same, don't they, really? But also, in the same respect, I do find watching these shows a bit of escapism.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand the escapism bit, Graham. What's your take?
Well, television and all sort of kind of art forms, they both reflect culture and they influence it, don't they? So in a way, reality TV is just reflecting what kind of people do. And so there is entertainment in that. So I'm not against all reality TV. I think there are particular shows that kind of shape our view as well as just showing our view. And I think things like Love Island and in the past Big Brother, there's a kind of weird voyeurism about it. I mean, it's not reality anyway, because it's all clipped, isn't it, as to the bits that are the most kind of tasty to watch. So I don't think it enhances. I think it's depraving rather than kind of enhancing anyone's personality or anything else. I mean, I wouldn't be horrified. It'd be up to my own kids what they do, but I wouldn't be really delighted if they were going on, because partly I don't think it's reality, but also I think it's doing stuff. I mean, you can only really create entertainment around conflict or kind of sexual intrigue and relational intrigue. So mostly it veers into the things that will get the most kind of clicks, the most watches. So it tends to be degrading rather than kind of improving, doesn't it?
You see, I have to disagree with that. I've done every reality show you can possibly think of. Like, for instance, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. I mean, the last one that I just watched, I found that really uplifting to watch. It made me smile. It made me cry happy tears watching people be reunited with their family. Love Island, I think, is a different kettle of fish. I think it'd be nice to have different ages on there, different body shapes on there. And again, when you come home from a really hard day working, you've got a bunch of D-listers living in a house together, it does take you away from your own stresses of your own life that I think is a part of escapism. I think Love Island's a different kettle of fish, really. You know, people walk around in bikinis, but I don't think all reality TV shows are like that. You know, I've done every single one possibly you can possibly think of. And they are as real as they get. Again, Love Island is different in my opinion, but I've always found them a great adventure and to be very proud to have been a part of something so huge that has made people, give something people to talk about the next day. Oh, did you watch Big Brother? Oh, did you watch The Jungle? Oh, wasn't it lovely when they got reunited? You know, I'm glad I've been a part of that. And also, when I've watched it, you know, it's made me teared up. It's made me smile. You know, you all gather around the TV to watch.
Yeah, I think I'm a Celebrity is you're right. It's different in the sense it's a kind of a bit of a competition, and there's lots of conversations that happen that are quite interesting. But even that, you're trying to look for the conflict, and you're not necessarily trying to bring the best out in people in the way you're producing these shows. You're not trying to say, well, you know, what really great virtues can we show? It's normally about some kind of conflict because that's what gets the most interest. So I'm not sure it's generally improving, but I'm not against them all. But and as you say, Love Island and probably in the past Big Brother is different, and it is going for a particular look and a particular kind of storyline, which is to do with kind of relationships and yeah, and obviously as a Christian, I've got a moral framework as well, which is not really encouraging. I mean, there have been the occasional Christian on Big Brother, which has been interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, for me, it's like reading a novel. It's like reading a novel, but watching it on the TV, and that's what we want to do. It's like picking up a good book, a romance or a thriller or something, and watching a good romance, and that's why it's been dated.
But it is real people's lives. It's not quite the same as something you're creating. It's real people's lives.
And they encourage scenarios, don't they? They encourage people to cheat and whatever on it. What's your view, Ellie?
I think, Kerry, you alluded to it earlier when you were talking about your daughter. It's the body image thing that concerns me. It's young girls watching Love Island and really skinny girls and young boys
hit the gym after this. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, they're seeing perfect bodies on the screen.
You don't need to go in the gym, Eamonn. You look gorgeous as you are, love.
I know. You see, the reason I don't enter anything like that, Kerry, is you know
you're gonna win.
Exactly. And it's not fair. It's not fair, I think, on everybody else being there.
It's not fair.
No.
But Kerry, what do you think about the body image thing? You know, when you talk about your daughter, is that something that you'd worry about, her comparing herself to the likes of what she sees on the screen?
Now, this is where there's a conflict of interest for me, because I've been brought up in this industry since I was 17, so it's massively affected me. I mean, when you're put on the front cover of magazines after having a baby with a stretch mark in the circle of shame, you know, it does do a psychological effect on you. I think a lot of celebrities who have been around for so many years as I have been affected by that. But everyone has to bear in mind, I've had my children. I'm in my 40s. I feel I'm entitled to have my tweaks and try and improve on what I think are going down south, and health and safety, tripping over any things that I don't want to be tripping over anymore. But I definitely do believe, I mean, majority of the young girls that go on Love Island, they all have the same big lips, the same big eyelashes, all the butt implants, and they're barely in their 20s. You know, it's if you go to the airport now, I remember going to the airport and I looked around and all the girls looked exactly the same.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think you're right.
And I think you need to stand out, be unique. Do not be afraid to be different. Don't follow the crowd. Be who you want to be. That's my only concern.
Okay.
And I think a lot of that is social media as well, not just reality shows.
That's true.
Well, those are Kerry's concerns there. So, Graham and Kerry, thank you both very much indeed for getting people thinking about that today.
Yeah.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
What do you think? Do you think reality TV is toxic? Or do you think it's quite...
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is. You know, all this nonsense with channels like ITV, oh, we care about you, look after one another. No, they don't. They just want ratings at the end of the day. But then certain things become quite boring. I used to think that I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, was quite good because there was friction within the camp.
Not anymore.
Now everybody just loves each other. I would be the Roy Keane of the camp. I wouldn't be hugging people and wishing them all the best. I want to win, right?
Yeah.
I want to win. I want to beat you doing it. So... You know, all this, oh, good luck, Ellie, good luck. You know, it's all a lot of nonsense.
Yeah. Well, let us
still watch it.
Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/, you'll say.
Okay.
Coming up, Cam Norrie. Is he in or is he out? Paul Coit will be here with all of the sport next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In the Highland, the A832 is closed each way over Moy Bridge because of flooding. The M90 in Perth and Kinross is closed in both directions over Friarton Bridge because of a fire underneath the motorway causing queues. The Port of Holyhead remains closed for emergency repairs, with sailing still suspended between Holyhead and Dublin. On the M18 in South Yorkshire, 2 lanes are closed northbound after an accident between junctions 1 and 2 from Bramley to the A1M causing queues. In London, the North Circular is partly blocked westbound by an accident between the A10 at Edmonton and the Clockhouse interchange at Palmer's Green, causing queues from the Kenninghall interchange. On the M25 in Surrey, there's a lane closed anti-clockwise at junction 10 for the A3 after an accident, with queues from junction 11 at Chertsey. And in Cornwall on the A30, the westbound entry slip road at Kennard's House is closed, where overnight roadworks have overrun.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Figures released by the National Child Measurement Programme in 2024 found that almost 1 in 10 children was obese in the first year of school. Children living in deprived areas are twice as likely to be overweight as those in more affluent parts. Organisations like the Prepped Foundation are educating youngsters about healthy eating by giving them the skills to create balanced meals. TV chef James Golding has joined the foundation as the head of food education, and he joins me now to talk about the work. James, lovely to see you here.
Good to see you too. So Prepped used to be Table Talk Foundation, and it's now obviously Prep for Life, Prep for Knowledge. It's basically a charity to encourage kids to have a better understanding of food, but at the same time enjoy cooking and hopefully make better food choices in their life, as well as perhaps, you know, share the information we give them with their families.
Do you see them developing an understanding of the difference between healthy and unhealthy food?
Yes, I think that, you know, kids tend to sort of be taught a lot of this in school, but being able to actually ask questions to a chef and be able to cook with produce which they know is one, that is going to be tasty because they've tasted it, but two, open their eyes to food that they may not have tried before. I think that, you know, I think a lot of kids say they don't want to try stuff because they don't like the way it looks, but the way that we produce our sessions, you know, we encourage the kids to try, and I think it really does open their eyes. It's very easy, I think, currently to be able to make easier choices, say fast food choices or you know, that type of thing, and it's obviously giving people the ability to make the right choices, but also the skills to be able to do it. So I think it's something that needs to be addressed and something that really needs to be pushed, and that's what we're doing as a charity.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast with Eamonn and Ellie. It's time to go through all the latest sports news now. Paul Coit is here with us. Morning.
Good morning. It's very hot in Melbourne at the moment, where the Australian Open is.
Talking about it in here.
Yes, it's also a little warm in here also. But in the Australian Open in Melbourne, we've got 5 Brits are through, which is more than we've ever had.
That's a good show.
It's not bad at all through the first round, and then we'll just see them drop as we go. But don't forget,
You need to have some positivity.
But Andy Murray is coaching Novak Djokovic from the side. It's the first time we've seen him. Let's see Cameron Norrie, shall we? Cameron Norrie played just in the early hours. He's one of the... The thing is, Cameron Norrie, 6-1, 6-3, the last 3 sets, so he is out. But Emma Raducanu is through. Should we see a little bit of Raducanu?
Let's.
2 service games, 5 ace, and she's going to do OK.
Yeah, I think we need to have faith in Emma Raducanu. I think
OK.
she's still got a long way to go.
Eamonn, did you hear about Luke Littler? She said she wants to she'd like to meet Luke Littler, who may inspire her.
Who, Emma Raducanu?
Yeah, the darts player, because he won the world title as a youngster. Well, actually, he only just won the world title. But that therefore at 18, that maybe he's doing something that she's not.
Maybe he's just not thinking about it. Maybe he is thinking about it.
He's more chilled, yes. Maybe she could take a leaf out of his book.
Yeah, just going to do a bit
But he doesn't have to play in the heat that she's playing in, which is very difficult.
It is. I mean, it's a different thing, isn't it? It really is a different thing altogether.
Mate, could we talk about football and non-league clubs? You know, after seeing Tamworth at the weekend against the mighty Tottenham. So they're playing at Tamworth's ground, and I think this is a really unfortunate move. The non-league clubs are now going to lobby that no matter what the draw is, so if they're at home, they don't want to be at home, they'd rather go to the Premier League club's ground because there'd be more money in it for them.
But where's the glory in that?
And where's the advantage, you know? And it's unfortunate, but you can see why they've asked to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had Andy Peaks, didn't we, on the show yesterday? I thought he was great, the Tamworth manager. He was really terrific. But he was upset, saying that obviously they got to 90 minutes and it was all level, and if it had been the years before, they would have then gone to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, made a lot of money from the ground. So they're... non-league clubs are hoping that they can lobby the FA to be able to say, can we have the choice? I mean, obviously, the Premier League club would also have to decide that they would be happy with it as well. So if they get drawn at home, they can then say, can we play the game at the Premier League club's home ground? Now, obviously, it would mean more money, but what happens to the advantage of winning the game?
There isn't.
Because
you're
that's
basically
what it's all
saying,
about, is winning the game,
You're
surely.
basically saying we buy out here at this stage.
Yeah, thanks very much. We're in it. We've done OK. We'll take the loss and we'll take the money. You know, we'd like to have a go, but the advantage is to them is going to be playing it there. I mean, we saw that with Spurs. We looked how uncomfortable they were. We saw it at Tamworth. So they could well have won that game and then gone on. So
I'd be interested to see what the dividend, the bonus for Tottenham was amongst their players. Tamworth had 25 grand to split amongst the team, which is fine. It's a few grand to each player. But the Spurs thing would be 25 grand per player at least.
Well, the thing is, they're just going to get their regular money, aren't they? This is not going to be, well, you've got to the third round of the Cup, so we're going to pay you extra for that. They probably have their win bonuses, etc. But I don't imagine they're going to get more for it.
Those are written into so many contracts. I mean, whether they're promoted or relegated or progress in certain cup competitions, there's bonuses there. But
they didn't deserve they didn't deserve one on Sunday.
No, they didn't.
I just think it's rather unfortunate that we get to that stage. And the FA will not be interested in acceding to this in any way or changing this around. But once you lose it, you lose it. It's not going back.
That's it. And it is. We can understand why these clubs want to do it, but is it in the interest of the competition? I don't think so. Shall we? By the way, we've got the little bit of Tyson Fury, by the way. This is his retirement speech. Would you like to see this?
Yes.
He's done a few. He's done a few in the past, 4 times. So this is now the one that came out yesterday. Take it with a pinch of salt, whether it's true or not. We never know what he's going to do from one day to the next. Is Tyson Fury yesterday.
Hi everybody, I'm going to make this short and sweet. I'd like to announce my retirement from boxing. It's been a blast. I've loved every single minute of it, and I'm going to end with this. Dick Turpin wore a mask. God bless everybody. See you on the other side. Get up!
Don't get that.
See you for your next fight, Tyson.
Yeah, we'll see you.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Dick Turpin wore a mask. I don't get that.
Well, of course you get that.
No, I don't.
Somebody's fiddled him. Somebody's, messed him about regards money.
Of course.
I mean, I could speculate as to who that would be.
Yes.
But
so therefore, Dick Turpin wear a mask, all that. So then the right money comes along.
He'll be there.
Anthony Joshua, Tyson
Wembley.
Fury, Wembley Stadium next summer.
Out of retirement.
Absolutely.
Thank you, my friend.
Read him like a book.
See you again shortly. Thank you very much indeed.
Now, still to come, should we be reviving the Liz Truss lettuce? Remember that? For Rachel Reeves, as rumours swell that she could be out of a job very soon. We'll
But
talk
first,
about that next.
if you are in search of some winter sun, here's the forecast for sunny European holiday destinations. Have a look.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you are searching for any winter sun, you'll find it in Iberia, but it's going to be breezy in the Canaries and there'll be further showers across much of Greece. Cyprus is looking fine and warmer than average for the time of year. This area of low pressure bringing some showery rain to the south of Italy and Sicily. Balearics, Spain, Portugal, mostly fine, plenty of sunshine, but an area of showers will approach here during Thursday and Friday, making it feel a little cooler.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Teenage girls are out drinking their male peers in the UK at a greater rate than any other European country. Yes, more than a third of 15-year-old girls in the UK report getting repeatedly drunk, compared to less than a quarter of boys the same age. I suppose what I'd say to this is, boys, what are you doing? Pull yourself together. Well, joining me now is the editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths, and the former Labour advisor, Matthew Larzer. Charlotte, you're going to have to speak up on behalf of girls the country over here. 15-year-old girls boozing much more than their male counterparts.
I think it's to do with the pain threshold, so we can handle hangovers better.
Do you get hangovers when you're 15 years old?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I was drinking hooch and Smirnoff.
Absolutely. Whatever happened to hooch?
Yeah. And I just think we can tolerate it better. Right. And I don't know, I grew up in that kind of wild child 90s drinking era. I'm showing my age a bit. And, God, we drank a lot as teenage girls. I mean, it's actually shocking now in retrospect.
Well, I also think in terms of boys versus girls, I wonder if we've got a bit of a thing about... I mean, the old cliche that girls develop quicker, they can become social quicker. They can certainly get into the pub more easily because they look older. Yeah. You know, because of makeup, etc. I wonder if the boys are all just, you know, in their rooms playing on their devices, as it were. You know, as people increasingly dominated by screens. Whether in fact there's an issue about socialisation, about whether in fact, you know, the lads are not out there socialising.
They have little sips of wine in France from the age of like 12, and they're absolutely fine about it. Yeah. Whereas we all know what happens to British girls, because I was one of them. You turn, however, old enough to get a bottle of Smirnoff Ice, and boy, do you go for it, and until you're vomiting, basically.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good to see you again. Jonathan and Lauren here to go through the newspapers with you. And Jonathan, going to start with benefits facing a cut because number 10 says we need to save money.
Yeah, this is the ballooning welfare bill. So you've now got something like 2.5 million people out of work on the long-term sick since the pandemic, actually. And increasing numbers of people are being... written off, as it were, and moving on to disability benefits, often for reasons of mental health, anxiety, depression and stress. And the question is, can anything be done to get those people to move back into work? I used to lead on social security for the Labour Party when I was in Parliament, and I was putting forward some proposals to encourage people to move back into work, changes to the benefit rules. Now, this looks like the government's going to start implementing some of that, but of course there'll be a lot of people, perhaps even some of your viewers, who are currently off work with a mental health condition, who feel that they can't work. But I would argue that often if you're out of work for reason of depression or stress, getting back into the routine of a job helps you. And if you can move people off benefits and into work, that's good for the taxpayer as well.
Yeah, but I think there's two issues here that I think aren't addressed by just saying we need to cut the benefit bill. The first is that there is a crisis in NHS mental health care in the United Kingdom across all 4 sections of the NHS. Tony Blair's comments yesterday, I think, were remarkably unhelpful, where he's saying that too many people basically are being classified as having a mental health issue. There's not enough breathing room in the NHS mental health system to actually diagnose and treat people who require treatment. And as a result, they're ending up on the DWP lists. Until you deal with both ends of the scale, you can't actually balance the system well enough. And the second issue is when people get their tax breakdown annually, and there's a pie chart on the back of it that says the percentage of their tax bill that's gone to various sections of the government. The section that says benefits and DWP is a fairly broad brush definition, but it includes pensions. Yeah. And that is an increasing bill because of the number of people who are hitting the retirement age. So when we talk about the benefit bill, we have to be able to talk about the fact that under the classifications that the DWP uses, the state pension is classified as a benefit and is therefore a portion of the benefit bill.
But people, I know technically it doesn't really work like this anymore, but people feel that they've paid into their pension. They've certainly built up contributions to their pension through a lifetime of work. So you're suggesting cutting that?
No, but the reality is that what they've been paying into is keeping the previous generation in the state pension. I think that we have a system that isn't working well enough. We also have a system that is going to change quite substantially over the next 30 years as more and more people hit retirement age with mandated workplace pensions, because we've altered so much how employment must provide for retirement now, that we need to, that bill itself will shift naturally, but it is a large bill. And it, when we talk about cutting benefits, the portion of the benefit bill that is out of work benefits is not as large as the whole section of the pie chart, because that portion includes pensions in the calculation.
Lauren, what you say is very, very true. I mean, the amount of staff in the mental health area is just not enough, and that may involve paying more money to get staff, and that's money that we as a country don't have.
In Oxfordshire recently, there was a story that someone was on a waiting list for an ADHD diagnosis, and they estimated they would get to them in 2045.
Stop.
Now, if that's a person who needs medication in order to be able to function within employment, that's the entirety of the rest of their working life where they go without an NHS diagnosis.
The problem at the moment is that people are being assessed for it's a certain bit of universal credit, but it's basically what we used to call incapacity benefits. People are being assessed for that for mental health condition, saying that they cannot work, and then they never get assessed again because assessments dropped around the pandemic time, reassessments dropped around the pandemic time, and they never brought them back up again. And the issue is this: if you're out of work, often with a mental health condition, you will find routine. It will help you if you can get back into work, which is why when they've put employment advisors into mental health services, it's actually helped people move back into work.
But you need access to the NHS service to begin with, and that's where we have a very big problem.
OK, let's move on. We're talking about paying for services such as the mental health area. Jonathan, weight loss drugs on the NHS. I saw a programme on this last night. It was Panorama, I think it was last night. Would this be, a great thing? It would help people in so many areas. But the warning here is in the Times that giving weight loss drugs to everyone will bankrupt the NHS.
Well, they're really expensive, that's certainly true, but they are phenomenal. They do appear to be a wonder drug, and there is evidence that not only do they help people lose weight, they actually also help people with other conditions, sometimes improve people's mental health, actually, but they also have an impact on people's wider health. Look, I think that the NHS need to find a way to provide these drugs. We know we have got an obesity crisis in the UK. We know that so many of our children are leaving school obese. That we know that because of obesity, that it impacts not just people's heart and stroke, it also impacts on people's musculoskeletal health, which also, by the way, is another reason why some are out of work. If we can cut a deal with these pharmaceutical companies who provide these drugs, that can only be a good thing.
Well, one of them's coming off label, I think, in a couple of years. And it's not Ozempic, but one of the it's a semaglutide drug. One of them, from memory, is coming off label in the next couple of years, and that will change the ballgame substantially, because if the NHS is able to then prescribe that one as, a generic form and therefore a significantly reduced cost form, then the burden of cost on the NHS will come down substantially. And then it becomes a question of, well, if we provide this to a patient, potentially for life, does that reduce the bill of later life complications from heart disease, from diabetes, from the eye problems that are associated with that, in relation to diabetic amputations, or in relation to, whether or not obesity has an impact on dementia or Alzheimer's. Does the bill go down later in life because we're spending more now, and is it therefore an investment to do so? There is a balance of probabilities question here that I think we need to do the maths on.
Got to leave it there. Lauren McEvitt and Jonathan Ashworth, they'll be back for one more time at about 20 minutes to 9.
Yeah, thank you very much, both of you. Now, you were saying you think it's going to be sunnier today.
Sorry?
Eamonn Holmes with the weather. You were saying it's going to be sunnier today. Let's get all the details, shall we, with Aidan.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud today with drizzly rain in places, but some brighter spells will be had, especially towards the far south and southeast through the morning. A chilly start here, and eastern Scotland, northeast England seeing some cloud breaks for much of the day. But elsewhere, it's a largely cloudy picture. The cloud low enough to give some hill fog for Wales and the Pennines, some patchy drizzle, 1 or 2 spots of drizzle through the Midlands and East Anglia as well. The cloud tending to sink south so that most places by the afternoon are grey. 10 to 12 Celsius in the north and northwest, 8 or 9 further south. And the wind picks up later in the day across the north and northwest of Scotland. Gales developing in exposed locations. Patchy drizzle again for western Scotland. Low cloud here, but actually some breaks there developing to the east at times. Further south, across southwest Scotland, northwest England, again extensive low cloud, some hill fog and some drizzle. Northern Ireland, grey skies. But for the east coast, that's where we'll see some cloud breaks, although the cloud breaks in the south will become more limited by the evening as the low cloud spreads across much of the country. So generally cloudy skies as we go into the early hours of Wednesday. A lot of low cloud and hill fog to the west. Some patchy drizzle here and there. For many, though, it's a dry night, albeit with a lot of cloud cover. That cloud keeping the frost away, but 5 or 6 Celsius in the south, 8 to 10 further north. It's not a particularly warm start to Wednesday. It's a windy start, though, for the north and west of Scotland. Outbreaks of rain starting to approach here as the morning progresses. Showers for Shetland, but some brightness emerging across much of Scotland, Northern Ireland, northern and western England, as well as Wales. Low cloud remains for the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, and that spreads widely into Thursday and Friday. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In the Highland, the A832 is closed each way over Moy Bridge at Marybank because of flooding. The M90 in Perth and Kinross is closed each way over the Friarton Bridge between junctions 10 and 11 near Perth because of a fire underneath the bridge. There are queues as a result. On the M62 in West Yorkshire, there are eastbound queues after traffic was stopped because of an accident at junction 22 at Rishworth Moor. On the M18 in South Yorkshire, there are 2 lanes closed northbound after an accident between junctions 1 and 2 from Bramley to the A1M, causing queues. In London, the North Circular is partly blocked westbound by an accident between the A10 at Edmonton and the Clockhouse interchange at Palmer's Green, causing queues from the Kenninghall interchange. On the M25 in Surrey, there's a lane closed anti-clockwise at junction 10 for the A3 after an accident, with queues from junction 11 at Chertsey. And in Cornwall on the A30, the westbound entry slip road's closed at Kennard's House. Overnight roadworks have overrun.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Don't miss your chance.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Kemi Badenoch slams grooming gangs.
I'm not afraid to look into this. I don't care what people call me, whether they say I'm jumping on a far-right bandwagon.
In a GB News exclusive interview, the Conservative leader labels abusers peasants from sub-communities.
She calls for immediate deportation and imprisonment for foreign criminals.
Treasury turmoil. The Prime Minister gives a lukewarm backing to his Chancellor amid economic chaos.
Confident in our mission for growth, and I'm confident, completely confident in my team.
A spy in the palace. Newly unsealed MI5 files reveal what the late Queen did or crucially did not know about a KGB spy working there.
Bin workers walk off the job in Birmingham as union bosses pledge to cause huge disruption to the city.
And in the sport this morning, Emma Raducanu is through, whilst Cameron Norrie's knocked out of the Australian Open. Tyson Fury has announced his retirement yet again. And it's back to the future tonight. First against third as Liverpool play Nottingham Forest.
A lot of cloud across the UK this morning, but some bright spells are expected in one or two spots. After the full forecasts coming up very soon.
Hello there, just after 8 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. Hello, good morning to you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Ellie.
Talking about Lord Nelson's hair and
from his head.
From his head, yeah. A snippet of which is being put up for auction and they're expecting 15 grand for it. It's in a locket. Lockets were invented, says Justice. Lockets were invented to keep hair cuttings from loved ones dead or alive, very often from children who died in infancy. It's not surprising someone took a sample from the dying Lord Nelson.
I still think it's weird. Creepy.
It is a bit weird and creepy. And so you said about John Wayne, you nearly bought John Wayne's hairpiece.
Toupee, yeah, it was toupee hairpiece, yeah.
Because it was, so what was it from? It was from True Grit.
True Grit.
So he was Rooster Cogburn, right?
Yeah.
Look, there it is. So this...
I could have had that.
That's it.
Could have been yours, Eamon.
And I've even managed to find the original... There we are.
Yeah.
Look at that. So I think there was a pair of hairpieces.
Oh, definitely.
You and me together would look marvellous.
Yeah.
What on earth would you look like in that, I wonder?
I'd look a
there
bit
you
like,
go, look at that.
Oh,
stick an eye patch in there, there's Rooster Cog.
Yeah, that's what you need.
Yeah.
Fill your hands, you... Can't say the rest.
Drink your milk and get off your horse.
Very good, very good.
There we are.
OK.
That was it, almost there. The same? Exactly the same.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. And you would have had that up in your house for how much? How much were you willing to pay for that?
Well, you would have had to pay at least 15,000, I would have thought, for it.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether those two come as a pair. Or you
buy one, get one free.
Separately.
You could have a weekend one, which is like the more wild John Wayne toupee, and the other one, serious Rooster Cogburn business hairpiece.
You did know John Wayne was bald from a very young age.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, you see, most of his films he would have worn a wig in.
Really? I thought that was just the reason he wore the cowboy hat, probably.
Probably?
Yeah.
Could
well, I think you're better with the 15 grand in the bank. Think of the holidays you can do for 15 grand.
I think so.
Rather than toupee in a cabinet.
But I could have looked at it, stroked it, groomed it, just been...
stroked it. Well, listen, we'll club together and buy you the Nelson hair, if that's what you're after.
OK.
Let us know what you think.
It would have been an investment.
If you've bought anything like that in an auction, gbnews.com/you'll say.
Kiss me hard.
Whose wig would you buy?
Yeah, whose wig would you buy?
Newly released MI5 files reveal that Queen Elizabeth II was kept in the dark over the treachery of a senior courtier.
Yeah, for almost a decade. This is Sir Anthony Blunt, who played a double life, passing intelligence, the KGB, during World War II as a senior MI5 officer. But, remarkably, he was allowed to keep his position amid fears of a major scandal if the truth came out.
Well, now those files have been released by the National Archives, which includes the Queen's response to finding out a trusted member like Anthony Blunt was really a traitor.
Well, joining us now in the studio is GB News Royal correspondent Cameron Walker. Good to see you this morning, Cameron. This is astonishing.
Oh, absolutely. And this wasn't a little spy. This was Anthony Blunt was a full-blown spy. He passed to the Soviets the D-Day deception plans but during the Second World War. He was working for MI5 but a double agent for the KGB as well.
The wrong plans.
He passed on the plans.
The wrong ones.
The wrong one in 1944. Yeah. Exactly. But he then got a job inside Buckingham Palace as one of the Queen's most trusted aides and courtiers, the surveyor of her art, essentially like kind of an art advisor for her late Majesty. There was always suspicions about Anthony Blunt way back in the early 50s because he was part of this notorious Cambridge spy ring, a group of 5 boys recruited at Cambridge. 2 of these people fled to Moscow in 1951. Anthony stayed behind in London and subsequently got a job inside Buckingham Palace. And it wasn't until 1964 that he confessed to his treachery. The reason he confessed was because he was granted immunity if he gave up other information about other spies. But they thought, the powers that be, thought it would be such a scandal if it came out that a spy was inside the heart of Buckingham Palace, that they kept it all quiet. He was then knighted to become Sir Anthony Blunt. He kept his position inside Buckingham Palace, very close to the Queen. And what these new documents reveal, these MI5 documents released by the National Archives, is that the Queen was kept in the dark until the early 1970s. And the only reason she was told by her private secretary, Martin Chartres, was because they thought that Anthony Blunt was seriously ill and was going to die. And they also knew that papers were sniffing around the story and they didn't want it to come out in the Queen to read about it in the papers. And the document reads that she took all of this very calmly, without surprise. There are thoughts that she was given a broad overview when she ascended the throne in 1952 as to what Anthony Blunt was doing, but she wasn't told the full extent until 1973. And then this all became very public in 1979 when Margaret Thatcher became Prime Minister and thought enough is enough, how dare he be inside the establishment and get away with his crimes. I'm going to say it with my parliamentary privilege in the House of Commons, which is exactly what he did. And then the Queen stripped him of his knighthood and he died 4 years later. What a story.
What a story.
What a story, yeah.
And the Queen was so unflappable. I mean,
she was.
Down to her character.
Yeah, stoic. There's also been some very fun documents released in the same tranche of documents by MI5 talking about what makes a perfect spy as well. You've got to be 5'8", so tick for me, because I'm 5'8", so are you, Ellie.
Tick for me as well.
There we go.
We'd
we
be
can
good.
be spies together. You cannot look like a police officer, because apparently you become too suspicious. You can't be too tall, can't be too short. They advise against a fake moustache or fake glasses. This is a 17-page document dating back from the Second World War that's been released. So, yeah, some fascinating detail.
Oh, it's really fun to dig through it all, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you much.
Right, the time now 7 minutes past 8 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. To politics now, and our national reporter Charlie Peters has brought us an exclusive interview with the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch.
Yes, they spoke about the grooming gang scandal that's horrified so many people, and here's what she had to say.
I'm not afraid to look into this. I don't care what people call me, whether they say I'm jumping on a far-right bandwagon or I'm just doing it for politics. This is something that I've been talking about for a while. I said it in my big leadership speech. This was something I wanted to look at. But if you look at it, there's a systematic pattern of behaviour, not even just from one country, but from sub-communities within those countries, people with a particular background, particular class background, work background.
What background is that?
You know, people very, very poor, sort of peasant background, very, very rural. This is about those victims who deserve justice, the survivors who deserve justice.
Well, Charlie is here this morning to talk about Kemi Badenoch and what she's had to say. And what effect would her contribution to all of this be? I mean, is it likely to carry any weight?
Well, I think the significance, first and foremost, that she's met with survivors, which is on the back of what we had that interview with, and meeting with people from Oldham and Rotherham, two towns where there have been local reports. So she said that meeting was quite shocking. That's the first thing we wanted to talk about was, what did they tell you? What have you learnt as a consequence of meeting them? And I think for a lot of these politicians, they read about these reports, they see sentencing remarks from the courts, etc. But it doesn't really hit home until you meet these people.
Precisely, see the emotion involved in all of this, and you still see the hurt that these people have to live with.
And right after our interview, the team all around Kemi, they said, we're not letting this one go. We're going to keep pursuing this one. And I do think that when you do meet survivors, it's hard to let this one go, as it were, because the extent of this scandal is so shocking, not just the abuse, but as Kemi referred to in the interview, the leader of opposition there, she said it's not just the culture of the perpetrators, but also the culture of silence and cover-ups in our institutions that concerns her so greatly. There was also a section where she referred to the other sort of taboos that she's tackling, issues with men, she says, in women's prisons. She referred to them in the interview as fully intact men. She also spoke about autistic gay children being sterilised under the cover of trans, talking about the Tavistock Centre in North London, the gender medical centre. So clearly not shying away from difficult topics in that language, but to tie it into this conversation, that did surprise me. To compare those issues when I think a lot of people in this area, they just think, let's just focus on this issue of child abuse and this exploitation.
What did you make about her comments on the perpetrators of these grooming gangs? She described them as peasants from sub-communities within some countries.
Yeah, some countries, I can only assume she's referring to South Asia, because I pressed her, what backgrounds are you referring to? I didn't expect her to say peasants. I thought she'd say, as many politicians who are clear-eyed about this crisis say, oh, this is a predominantly Pakistani issue, other ethnicities are represented, but Pakistanis and other South Asians are overrepresented. But she's gone, without saying Pakistanis, I think even more precisely than that, because she's referring to sub-communities, regions of this area, not just saying, she's in some way being more precise and nervous to tarnish communities with the same brush by saying that it's not all people from this country, all people from this area. It's a specific part which generates potentially a degree of clannishness, protection among communities. People don't want to dob in their cousins. If an abuser is on the streets and their cousin is in the police, they may support each other, as we think happened in Rotherham. So, pretty interesting line for sure.
And you also challenged her on why she and the Conservatives didn't call for that wide-ranging public inquiry whilst they were in power, because it's all well and good saying it now, but you've had 14 years to do so.
Yeah, and it came off the back of one of her councillors in Bolton, the leader of Bolton Council, Martin Cox, saying that it was shameful for the Conservative Party, her party, that they had not done so. Her position was, I've been speaking about this problem for years, she said. She was aware of the grooming gangs crisis. She mentioned it in her leadership pitch to the Conservative Party a few months ago. But she said that she wanted to wait for the inquiries that were ongoing to conclude. But the ICSA inquiry did conclude in 2022, and it showed that it hadn't looked at the grooming gangs situation properly. However, Kemi Badenoch did say that they launched the grooming gangs task force on the back of that review, which, as she pointed out last night, did make 550 arrests and did protect 4,000 victims.
Charlie, what she has done, I think, is put words in the mouth of ordinary people about this. I think she's just hit bullseye on this one, because that is what people think. People think this is disgraceful that this went on, that it was allowed to go on, and something must be done to recognise for the victims that this went on. Why did it go on? Why were these officials saying, oh, let's not bother about this, oh, she's deluded this one, or forget this? No real interest in putting this right.
Yes, and there was a section of that. What led to that culture of silence? What led to that cover-up? People being ignored, children in the most appalling situations just being sidelined, which was a question I had specifically about the Islamophobia definition, which has been brought into a number of councils where this abuse went on. Now, under this definition, referring to sex grooming gangs, Asian grooming gangs, is considered racist. Now, this definition was signed off by a number of senior Labour figures, including Wes Streeting, one of the Health Secretary, and it's been adopted in councils such as Newcastle, where a ginormous police operation found hundreds of girls in an appalling state, dozens of perpetrators arrested, but under that definition, calling it out for what it was, Asian gangs, many think that's too generous, South Asian, specifically Pakistani gangs, operating, is a big problem. And she said that, in this country we don't have Islamophobia rules preventing speech, or at least we shouldn't, and in the Conservative Party they would push past that and ensure that they can accurately diagnose the situation.
Did she tell you any more about her push for a new national inquiry? Because that amendment failed from the Tories last week. Are they going to try again?
Well, she put out an olive branch last night to all politicians from all parties and said, I think there was some quite extensive criticism, not just from politicians, but also campaigners, against that wrecking amendment last week, because it made it very difficult for other politicians to support the call for an inquiry, because it would block a government bill. But last night she said, let's get all together and do this. All members of all parties. This is a national problem. This shouldn't be party political. And she also said that people should look towards the examples set by Labour MPs, such as Sarah Champion and Paul Waugh, Rochdale and Rotherham, but also Dan Carden, Liverpool Walton MP, who broke ranks on Saturday evening. That's a very safe Labour seat. I think probably one of the safest Labour seats. So it was significant that he made that move. Kemi Badenoch-Clean now thinks there is an opportunity for all parties to come together, look beyond the politics and find a way of achieving this. But on that, I did ask, do you think that one of the reasons why it's being resisted is a fear that cover-ups would be exposed and this would implicate some politicians? She said, well, that just needs to be looked at.
Yeah, there has to be a reason for something. I just keep coming back to this, and I think who in their right mind would want to block any investigation, would want to block any inquiry, would want to block bringing justice for the girls involved in all of this? And, we talk about grooming. We really should be referred to it as rape gangs, because that's what it was. And it just needs to be put right. And to all the people, the officials who didn't take action on this, it's just truly appalling. And I find it ridiculous that a political party keeps coming up with an excuse, oh, we don't really want to go into that, we don't want to go into that. Why not?
It's a tough one for them to argue now. I think increasingly difficult. And I think the most significant intervention since this debate started, since the inquiry was voted down last week, is that of Sarah Champion. Yesterday, that Rotherham MP, not just saying we need an inquiry, but showing, frankly, her expertise on this issue, being the representative from that area, in calling also for a commission to assess the motivation for the crimes, because we know about what happened, but we don't really know why it happened. There's never been, Eamonn and Ellie, any academic or government-led research which assesses why these gangs come together, why certain backgrounds are overrepresented. Is this a cultural, religious, ethnic issue? Why is it happening? It's embarrassing. It shames us as a country that we've never looked into this properly on an academic level.
We should really all just sort of think what is really involved here. And you've got a group of men who talk to each other, and their families probably know things go on and they turn a blind eye to it.
Absolutely.
But these men take themselves on a Tuesday afternoon, 3 o'clock, they go to the gym, they wait for the girls coming out of school, or they sit in the back of a newsagent offering them crisps and lemonade. I mean, that's what you're talking, abusing children. And we could go into more detail, but no one actually sits and says she was 9 years of age when this happened, and then talk in detail what actually physically happened. And I think it would just make most people throw up. And I think no punishment is strong enough for the men who did this, think they can do it, think they can do it again. It still goes on.
It still goes on.
And a lot of these men are still in this country and they shouldn't be.
And on that point on deportation, we also asked her last night, will you support new measures? And she said we'll do whatever it takes to ensure that foreign nationals involved in these gangs are deported.
OK, Charlie, once again, thank you very much indeed for all your hard work and another great interview there. Thank you.
Now, 18 minutes past 8, let's have a look at the weather, shall we, with Aidan.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud today with drizzly rain in places, but some brighter spells will be had, especially towards the far south and southeast through the morning. A chilly start here, and eastern Scotland, northeast England seeing some cloud breaks for much of the day. But elsewhere, it's a largely cloudy picture. The cloud low enough to give some hill fog for Wales and the Pennines, some patchy drizzle, 1 or 2 spots of drizzle through the Midlands and East Anglia as well. The cloud tending to sink south so that most places by the afternoon are grey. 10 to 12 Celsius in the north and northwest, 8 or 9 further south. And the wind picks up later in the day across the north and northwest of Scotland. Gales developing in exposed locations. Patchy drizzle again for western Scotland. Low cloud here, but actually some breaks there developing to the east at times. Further south, across southwest Scotland, northwest England, again extensive low clouds, some hill fog and some drizzle. Northern Ireland, grey skies. But for the east coast, that's where we'll see some cloud breaks, although the cloud breaks in the south will become more limited by the evening as the low cloud spreads across much of the country. So generally cloudy skies as we go into the early hours of Wednesday. A lot of low cloud and hill fog to the west, some patchy drizzle here and there. For many, though, it's a dry night, albeit with a lot of cloud cover. That cloud keeping the frost away, but 5 or 6 Celsius in the south, 8 to 10 further north. It's not a particularly warm start to Wednesday. It's a windy start, though, for the north and west of Scotland. Outbreaks of rain starting to approach here as the morning progresses. Showers for Shetland, but some brightness emerging across much of Scotland, Northern Ireland, northern and western England, as well as Wales. Low cloud remains for the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, and that spreads widely into Thursday and Friday. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Talking about warm feelings, we could give you one.
Yeah, how would you like to win £50,000 in cash from us? Well,
very
it could all be
nice.
yours in our biggest Great British giveaway so far. Here are all of the details that you need.
Up next, the bin workers in Birmingham. They're on strike. Your views, their views, all very welcome. That's next.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
Mr. Motivator, he joins us now. Mr. Motivator, a very happy new year to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. There you are, bright and early. So how are things? How can we all kick ourselves into shape?
By the end of January, most people have thrown their New Year's resolution out the window. I think what's important is that we make a change for life and we we set ourselves small goals. And as we achieve those goals, then we reward ourselves. In other words, you want to run 10K, you don't immediately get up and go run 10K, do you? You run between 2 lampposts and walk between 20. If you're not into running, don't choose running. If you're into dancing, that's great. If you're into any kind of movement, that is the way to keep yourself active, healthy, and also maintain your independence.
So, Derek, is the point that you keep it manageable and small enough that it's achievable?
Why don't we just find 4 exercises that you do for 1 minute each exercise, and you do that 4 times a day? achievable, isn't it? That's only 4 minutes of exercise. And I guarantee at the end of the day, you'd have done 12 minutes, which is like your daily dozen. So there's your goal. I wanted to do a daily dozen of exercise lasting a minute each, right? And the first thing you could be doing is getting up from your chair, right? The moment you stand up, you incorporate so many muscles in your legs, right, that you're going to feel good, yes? So,
right, go on then. Get up off your chair, Adam. Show me how it's done.
Easy, come on.
Easy, yeah. Look at
no
that.
hand. The next thing I want you to do is to reach up real high. And if you bring it down, up
I'll
and
do
down.
that one.
Yeah.
For a minute, palms facing.
Oh, for a minute?
You're not flying a minute. That's better.
There we go.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
So we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Going to talk about this bin situation in Birmingham here. Incidentally, here's Brian, who says his recycling in Edinburgh only gets collected once or twice after making a complaint. It's been like that since last spring. But I would have thought he's doing quite well if he's being collected more than once a week.
Yeah, once a week is nice. I'm once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, a lot of people have to, once a fortnight type thing on that one. But we're talking about 350 workers here voting for industrial action in a dispute that would see 150 roles at Birmingham City Council downgraded.
Well, GB News reporter Jack Carson joins us now. Good to see you this morning, Jack. And what are people telling you there?
Well, there's certainly a very good attendance on the picket line here this morning. We're at the Lifford Lane depot. This is the second date in 12 days in total of industrial action over the next few months as more than 300 Birmingham City Council waste and refuse workers walk out over, of course, as you mentioned, that dispute over the downgrading of a role. But we're going to speak to Eamonn Kassab, who's the national lead officer at Unite. I mean, tell us why, there's a really good attendance here at the picket line this morning. Tell us why so many people have taken this industrial action and walked out this morning.
Well, the reason why the industrial action is so well supported is this is about protecting pay. And I want to be really clear about that. We are not asking for more money. We are asking for pay to be protected, for people not to have to face pay cuts of £6,000 a year. That's what this is about. It's about protecting the pay of good, hard-working people. Refuse workers in Birmingham do a vital job. They work hard doing that job to keep the city clean. They deserve decent pay. They deserve not to have their pay cut by £6,000 a year. That's how simple this dispute is, and that's why it's got such magnificent support.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I mean, that's just the view out there. There are, of course, big issues as well in Birmingham with situations like fly tipping, and people might well say that these workers are making that problem worse. But actually, as you just heard there from Eamonn Kassab, the national lead officer, this is about protecting pay. That's why so many workers have taken this decision to take industrial action today.
Yeah, and Jack, I mean, that's an amazing claim that's what's going on. I don't care what you earn, who can afford a £6,000 cut in their salary?
Exactly the point. I mean, maybe if I bring Eamonn back in, I mean, what is the reason for protecting this role of the safety officer? Because with downgrading that role, it's £8,000 a year that's set to be lost. So why is it so important that that officer role continues to be in place?
Well, the council have decided that they're going to get rid of the role. So they will get rid of the role and then downgrade people to a lower level. The role itself is safety critical. It ensures that the job is done safely. We need to be clear as well that in the past there have been fatalities on the job, on refuse services. So all local authorities should now be looking at making the job as safe as possible. Taking this role away makes the job less safe.
Thank you so much again for joining us this morning. These picket line, these workers are on this picket line for the next few hours still, even though the rain is pouring down. They're making their voices heard and taking this industrial action today.
Jack, are you seeing any difference there so far? Is there any rubbish building up or bins that you can see that haven't been emptied?
Well, certainly, you know, I was out at the weekend. There are certain areas of Birmingham that do have a big problem with fly tipping in general, but you do notice certainly some wheelie bins that are overflowing with rubbish. If they have been affected on the days, of course, the industrial action has been taken. Birmingham City Council say that that collection days can be organised for that rubbish to be taken away, and of course there are household recycling centres across the region, but it is certainly a case in certain streets you go down in Birmingham, you do see a build-up of those bin bags and those overflowing wheelie bins. But as you heard there's a real important reason why for these industrial workers they want to take that action, and of course those wheelie bins and rubbish piling up, it is a direct impact of that. So there is a situation where around certain parts of Birmingham there is rubbish collecting off because their collection day possibly is the day when industrial action is being taken today, but the council say that refuse can be collected.
OK, mate, cheers. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. If you are being affected by this, please do let us know what effect it's having on you or your neighbourhood. I mean, I remember when I was young and they had the metal bins and they would be collected twice a week.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah, but you weren't generating the same sort of rubbish and things in those days. It was full of potato skins and, you know...
food waste.
Yeah, food waste. You're quite right. It would have been a lot of food waste there.
Maybe that's part of the problem that you've just touched upon there. I mean, we are creating so much more waste now because we're doing all our online shopping. I mean... refuse workers are having to work so much harder, aren't they?
But I was looking at the plastic bags that were left there. I mean, what a curse it was when they made those legitimate. Foxes eat into those, you know, it's just messy everywhere it goes. And we are dirty people. We are, I think the way you run your home, if you've got a tidy home, you'll have a tidy bin, you'll have a tidy backyard, you'll have a tidy garden, whatever. But so many people couldn't care less, and they think it's someone else's responsibility, and they will take no responsibility for the waste that they generate. And we've got to do that. We've got to do that.
Yeah, well, let us know what you think on that one. gbnews.com/you'll say. Do stay with us. Still to come, it's going to be sports with Paul Coit. That's next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In the Highland, the A832 is closed over Moy Bridge at Marybank because of flooding. The M90 in Perth and Kinross is closed each way over Friarton Bridge between junctions 10 and 11 near Perth because of a fire underneath the bridge causing queues. On the M62 in West Yorkshire, there's a lane closed eastbound at junction 22 at Rishworth Moor after an accident with queues towards there. On the M1 in Leicestershire, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident at junction 23A near Derby causing delays. In Norfolk, the A47 is partly blocked by an accident near Acle, west of Great Yarmouth. In Suffolk, the A14 is blocked westbound by an accident between junctions 55 and 54 off the A12 Copdock interchange at Ipswich with queues from junction 56. And on the M3 in Hampshire, there's a lane closed northbound after an accident just after junction 13 at Chandler's Ford with queues on the M27. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And then fashionistas are keen to see which new trends are set to hit the catwalk.
Well, our next guest is very well placed to share her predictions with us after being a contestant on hit ITV series Dress the Nation, as well as being an upcycling and sewing consultant.
Wow. Joining us now is Tendai Murewe. I want to go back to you appearing on the ITV Dress the Nation.
Right.
Tell us about that experience. What was that like?
Oh, that was one of my highlights as a upcycling consultant. I learned to sew in my kitchen 5 years ago. And then, you know, during COVID, just making masks. Then the next thing I was on a Dress the Nation, making dresses in front of TV. Yeah, it was just incredible. I think we all had all these clothes that we have, but we don't know what to do with them. So mainly I started with men's jackets, taking off the sleeves and putting it like a print on.
I've tried this. I've tried taking off my sleeves before. I now have about 3 jackets with no sleeves. I never managed to put them back on.
You need to come to a workshop.
You
need to come to a workshop.
I need an upcycling consultant. 2025, what can we expect fashion-wise?
I think bold prints are back. People are loving. I think you walk on the streets in frollals and oversized men's jackets.
So the exact opposite. We have drastically underperformed this morning. You're just saying not like us.
We just woke up this morning and thought it's winter, it's cold, it's grey.
Grey, miserable.
Is that not the way to go?
No, it is. It's still, I think because fashion is expressive. It's whatever you want to express yourself. You know?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Big Premier League programme tonight. Paul's going to talk us through that one. What have we got?
Yeah, Tuesday, tomorrow. Today's Tuesday.
Today's Tuesday.
Today, tomorrow, and also Thursday. So Brentford are playing at home to Manchester City. So Man City are on the turn. You know, they had their bad time, but now they seem to be playing much better. And Brentford, of course, lost to Plymouth in the FA Cup.
Big surprise, that.
It really was, wasn't it? So they're going to be looking to do something, but I think Man City are too good for them at the moment. West Ham against Fulham. You've got Graham Potter there. It's his first Premier League game. Chelsea against Bournemouth. But the big one, this is like going back to the 1970s, though, isn't it? Nottingham Forest versus Liverpool. Forest, who are third, are on the same amount of points as Arsenal. They will go within 3 points of Liverpool, the leaders, if they manage to beat them. And let's not forget that Forest beat Liverpool at Anfield earlier this season, and it's just incredible what's going on there. And it's just
I think
Leicester,
a lot of people will forget that Forest were a superpower in the 80s. Absolutely incredible. And Liverpool and Forest, two colossuses they were, really.
They were, and it was under Brian Clough and Bob Paisley, I suppose, at the time, when they were up against each other. And they were the two teams, and Forest, who went up from the old second division, they won the first division, their first time they've gone up, and it seems like what happened with Leicester, 2016, when they came from nowhere, they were 1,000 to 1. Something is clicking there. Now, I don't know whether it's Nuno, the Holy Ghost.
Espirito Santo.
The man who has the beard brush, speaks very quietly. They've already beaten Liverpool, of course. Anyway, he was asked yesterday in the press conference, are they capable of upsetting everybody and you know, going on to the Premier League? This is what Nuno had to say.
I see a group of players really committed to do things well. And what can happen in the future, we don't know. But the proof is that we did it before. We start the competition well. I think we are improving through the competition. I truly believe that the players, the more time they spend together, the better they can play together. The flow and the knowledge of each other will increase and improve.
Good manager.
It's only going to get better. But the thing is, it was great when he was at Wolves, so he started there and everything was going very well. Then he left Wolves and then went to Spurs, and that didn't work out. No. Then nothing, and then he's gone to Saudi Arabia, come back, and it's just clicking. So obviously it's this thing where everything, that's what he's saying, everybody works together, and it all just seems to be happening. And there seems to be a very happy club at the moment, and nobody called it. Including
good for them.
Should we talk about our two favourite people, Emma Raducanu and Cameron Norrie?
Yes. Good for Emma, not so good for Cameron.
No.
Quick word on them. This is at the Australian Open, so this has happened overnight. Emma Raducanu is 3.
Okay. Let's look at skiing. I mean, we go from the big heat there, where tennis is taking place in Australia, and you got some action here.
Well, I do, because as you know, I'm not only head of sports and pastimes, but things that look nice as well. So let's have a look at something that looks nice. Look at that.
Oh,
don't you just wish you were there right now? That's it's in Switzerland, of course. Where else would it be?
And is that like a head cam or so we're looking at there?
Oh, well, I don't know, but he's eye up. Is that what it is? Look at the free.
Oh, that's scary.
It's at the Nendaz Backcountry International. Jake Muller. It's the first triple backflip. Look at this trip. This is unbelievable. So he's 19 years old, 200-metre vertical down a mountain. They call it free riding. And So the course is man-made down there, and then they just have to go there, and then away you go. Look at that.
Gee.
Isn't that beautiful? Were you a skier, Eamonn? You done the skiing?
No. I did it once. I staved my thumb on it.
Oh.
But
Hold on, you did what? Your thumb?
Yeah.
Well, you
It
fell
came
on your
out-
thumb?
came out of the
In skiing,
socket.
you hurt your thumb.
I fell down, and you try and protect yourself, you know, so...
Oh, right.
So that was the worst thing to do, so...
And how soon into the skiing adventure was that? Was that early? Because you know, at least...
I went down a little hill, and then I couldn't stop, and that was it, basically.
See, I loved it. I've been like...
Do you?
Yeah, 3 times. I've been like 3 times. First time I went, then I broke my ankle. Not skiing. It was after that.
Oh, was that the
so I
après,
couldn't
was
go.
it?
Actually, you know what? It was just on a paving stone. But
Oh, was it?
Story altogether.
Do you skier?
I have skied, yes. I'm not a particularly good one.
Uh-huh.
But I like being in the mountain air, and I like a hot chocolate at the top of the mountain. And I like après.
Yeah.
That's very
I like
nice.
the lifestyle around skiing.
I guess
you know where I was? Actually, you're mentioning me. Where I was filming that was the chalet, the camp where on Her Majesty's Secret Service, the James Bond film.
Yeah, we've talked about that, haven't we?
Was
in
filmed.
Switzerland, or in Mürren and around there.
Yeah, so I was there where Telly Savalas and George Lazenby and whatever were filming.
Well, it's a huge restaurant, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
a big circular restaurant, which is really high up in a mountain.
Yeah.
But it's just the most beautiful place.
Sort of place you'd love to go for your birthday. Whose birthday is it today?
Oh, yeah, got one. I only got one. Of all the birthday, have a look at this. You know who this is. Who is this? How old is he today? Let's see it. There we go.
Well, that's Declan Rice.
Declan Rice. We're playing against Spurs tomorrow. That's it. So there he is.
28.
Rare picture of an Arsenal player holding up a trophy. Oh, now there's no need for that. I'm just kidding. There we are. The charity.
28, I'm going to say.
28 for Declan Rice. Eamonn, what do you say? You played brilliantly yesterday. What do you have?
I'd say he's much younger. I'd say 24.
Right in the middle. 26.
Oh, really?
26, Declan Rice.
He's some player. He's a really good player. But it's just a pity he plays for who he plays for. And he's made some decisions which...
Are you talking about Ireland?
Yeah.
I thought you might be.
Yeah, you know, if you're Irish, I mean, whether you're him or Jack Grealish, I think it's another brilliant player.
Yeah.
It's just a difficult one to swallow that they turned down the chance to represent Ireland.
But they're
trophy.
English, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
They are
excellent players.
They are excellent players.
Yeah.
So happy birthday today, then.
26, Declan Rice.
Yeah, to Declan Rice. Hope he has
I
a
have a
lovely
son
day.
called Declan.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, there
and
you
does he
go.
like rice as well? So, Declan Rice, have a great day today and not such a good evening tomorrow night.
Thank you very much indeed. We'll take a break there and we're going to be back with what's making the news in the papers right after this.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you are searching for any winter sun, you'll find it in Iberia, but it's going to be breezy in the Canaries and there'll be further showers across much of Greece. Cyprus is looking fine and warmer than average for the time of year. This area of low pressure bringing some showery rain to the south of Italy and Sicily. Balearics, Spain, Portugal, mostly fine, plenty of sunshine, but an area of showers will approach here during Thursday and Friday, making it feel a little cooler.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And then fashionistas are keen to see which new trends are set to hit the catwalk.
Well, our next guest is very well placed to share her predictions with us after being a contestant on hit ITV series Dress the Nation, as well as being an upcycling and sewing consultant.
Wow. Joining us now is Tendai Murewe. I want to go back to you appearing on the ITV Dress the Nation.
Right.
Tell us about that experience. What was that like?
Oh, that was one of my highlights as a upcycling consultant. I learned to sew in my kitchen 5 years ago, And then, you know, during COVID, just making masks. Then the next thing I was on a destination, making dresses in front of TV. Yeah, it was just incredible. I think we all had all these clothes that we have, but we don't know what to do with them. So mainly I started with men's jackets, taking off the sleeves and putting it like a print on.
I've tried this. I've tried taking off my sleeves before. I now have about 3 jackets with no sleeves. I never managed to put them back on.
You need to come to a workshop. You need to come to a
I need an
workshop.
upcycling consultant. 2025, what can we expect fashion-wise?
I think bold prints are back. People are loving. I think you walk on the streets in frollals and oversized men's
So the
jackets.
exact opposite. We have drastically underperformed this morning. You're just saying, not like us.
We just woke up this morning and thought, it's winter, it's cold,
Grey.
it's grey.
Grey, miserable.
Is that not the way to go?
No, it is. It's still, I think because fashion is expressive. It's whatever you want to express yourself. You know?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome story, if you know.
Welcome back to Breakfast. We're going through the papers now with former Shadow Paymaster General Jonathan Ashworth and former Conservative Special Advisor Laura McKevitt. Really good to see you both. Jonathan, let's start with you, shall we? The front page of The Sun, and this is incredible, really, an incredible win for the late Dame Deborah James.
Yeah, I'm really pleased to see this story. It's the news that bowel cancer screening, the age for that is going to be dropped from 60 to 50. And this is really, really important because bowel cancer is one of the biggest killers, and more people appear to be getting diagnosed with bowel cancer in their 50s. Not entirely clear why. And there was an inspirational woman called Deborah James who I actually met when I used to be the Shadow Health Secretary, and I remember meeting her when she had her cancer diagnosis and supporting her campaign. And she sadly passed away a couple of years ago, but it was a phenomenal campaign, and I think did inspire the nation. And this is so important. So people in their 50s are going to be sent these kits in the post. And I suppose my plea is just do not ignore these kits because you can deal with cancer if you catch it early enough.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this is not the most pleasant thing to do, and a lot of us aren't used to it and talking about it and whatever, but it's essential, obviously, to do.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And the other reason I wanted to sort of flag this is, I mean, we can sometimes make ourselves sort of pretty miserable looking at the newspapers, but this is undoubtedly a good initiative that the government have done this, and that campaigners have persuaded the government to do this. So, look, I just want to plea to everybody watching, if you get one of these kits, use it.
And, of course, I think it's really important within that to point out that this would not have helped Deborah, because Deborah was 40 when she died. And what's really important when you see stories like this is to pay attention to what your body is telling you. And if you have symptoms that are weird, it is important to go to your doctor and to talk about them and to take the tests and to, you know, if you have a family history of this, it's important to flag that to your doctor really early so that you can be screened even earlier than 50. Because with this, prevention really is better than a cure. You know, if you have a colonoscopy early, if you have polyps removed early, it will significantly reduce the invasive nature of this treatment and the devastating nature of this treatment. The survivability just goes through the roof with early action on this. And the diagnosis is happening younger and younger now. It's probably something to do with our diets shifting over the course of the last 30 years. But, you know, yes, automatic testing is going to the over 50s for the first time, but everybody needs to pay attention to this and pay attention to their bodies.
Well said, Lauren. Jonathan, let's have a look at the Times, shall we? Labour law threatening customers' free speech. What's going on?
I mean, I suspect that this strikes me as being utter nonsense. I mean, putting in place laws so that workers are not harassed. It's not going to stop people in the pub having a chat about the things that's on their mind. I mean, I'm not sure where this has come from or who's making this point. Of course, people in the pub are going to be able to discuss issues and so on. I don't see why that would be harassment of staff. If staff are getting harassed or bullied by drunk people in the pub, then quite rightly that should be dealt with. But it's not going to stop people having a discussion about debates in the pub, I wouldn't have thought.
I think it depends if the law changes the balance, you know, of your right to be offended versus your right to offend. You know, if you are working in a pub and you hold views where the two people sitting at the bar right next to you hold different views and are discussing with each other things that offend you, is that negatively impacting your workplace environment, or is that just the nature of a pub? You know, if the law shifts, you know, in the direction one way or another, this is a very sensitive area when it comes to, you know, censorship and free speech, and I think that the balance of power within a law like this has to be judged very carefully. And I think where this is coming in is in the workers' rights bill, where, you know, Rupert Soames, who's the head of the CBI, this is in the Times this morning as well, is concerned about changes to the workers' rights bill. So this is part of a wider set of concerns about this bill.
Have you ever been in a pub or a bar or a gathering, a party or whatever, and overheard something that's offended you? No is the answer. No.
Have you?
No. And I've worked in some dives and been in some dives and associate with people who you could only find in the dive. But I just sort of think, what the heck does it take for you to go and say, oh, I was...
But even if... I don't know, I had to go to the SNP conference once.
Yes.
And that, you know, came fairly close.
But they have the right to offend you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And you would defend that right, I'm sure.
100%.
Now, I remember being at the Labour Party conference one year, and this camera operative came up to me to say hello, and I said, oh, great to see you, and I touched her arm, right, like that, and I said, great to see you, we're over here. She said, excuse me, I didn't give you permission to touch you, to touch me. I said, I'm really sorry, really sorry. I said, I'm going to report you for that.
Well, I think being offended. I think being offended by words and being offended by an arm on a shoulder in the workplace are probably two different statutes.
Will you agree with her then?
No, I don't
you
agree. I don't necessarily agree, but I think it's dealing with a very different statute to this one.
I think sometimes it just really, you realise these are changed times, and you've got to, in the most unusual circumstances, you think, I've committed an offence here, even though I didn't see it coming. You know, I didn't see being like this.
Yeah.
So things have changed.
Yeah, it's changing wild out there, isn't it? Lauren, do we need to be popping out for another lettuce, do you think?
This is the story on the front page of The Star about their assessment of the Chancellor and her likelihood of survival. The Daily Star famously had the live stream of the lettuce that they pitted against Liz Truss, which, you know, I think most importantly about the lettuce story to my friends at The Economist is that they originally were the people who suggested that Liz Truss did not have the shelf life of a lettuce, inspiring the Daily Star. And I wonder if they are perhaps shooting a little bit early on this. I think Rachel is probably fairly safe in number 11 for now. But like we mentioned earlier in the programme, the pound is taking a bit of a pummelling, gilts are up, the bond market is nervous.
And Sir Keir Starmer wouldn't actually answer the question yesterday. Will she still be Chancellor by the time the next general election
Well, he's
comes
just a bad communicator.
Yeah. I mean, she will
He
be...
was asked twice.
She will be the Chancellor, is my prediction. I think the Star of... you know, they've gone...
Jump the shark. It's called jumping the shark, isn't it?
Jump the shark or whatever. They're going to make... I can't try to think, make a turnip of themselves there or something like that. I can't try to think of a vegetable-related pun there. But look, she's going to carry on as the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and she is fixing the mess in the public finances. I mean, she's had to take some tough decisions, but look, this isn't Liz Truss. It's nowhere near Liz
Jonathan, are you a dog owner?
I am actually a cockapoo.
Oh, cockapoo.
Nellie the cockapoo.
Bit mad.
She's a bit mad, but
they're very loving
but they're loving. And for those of you who follow my Instagram account, every so often I put up pictures of Nellie the cockapoo. It's most popular you know, postings on my Instagram account that my dog is.
One of the newspapers reporting here on dog lovers would turn down their dream job if a boss didn't allow them to bring their dog into the office. I don't know how common that is. I mean, I think it's a great thing. I think it's very good for everybody's mental health and whatever. But what do you make of this story?
Well, I've never brought Nellie the cockapoo into the office.
I think you should strongly consider it. Why don't
Should
you
I bring her here?
Next Tuesday.
Yes.
Should I bring her in here?
Yes.
I'd be happy to see her here.
Absolutely.
We'd love to see
Yeah.
Nellie. It's good for people's mental health, isn't it, to be around a dog?
Well, my late dog Zanzibar used to come to the office in Nairobi with me sometimes, and it's great for morale if they're well behaved and if everyone in the office is on board with dogs. Some people are not great with dogs. My nieces and nephews in one section of the family really don't like dogs.
Is Nellie well behaved?
Well, I mean, these cockapoos are lovely, but they're a bit crazy.
You were right.
Right. Jonathan, Lauren, thank you both very much indeed. We appreciated that. We've got to say hello, good morning to Aidan.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud today with drizzly rain in places, but some brighter spells will be had, especially towards the far south and southeast through the morning. A chilly start here, and eastern Scotland, northeast England seeing some cloud breaks for much of the day. But elsewhere, it's a largely cloudy picture. The cloud low enough to give some hill fog for Wales and the Pennines, some patchy drizzle, 1 or 2 spots of drizzle through the Midlands and East Anglia as well. The cloud tending to sink south so that most places by the afternoon are grey. 10 to 12 Celsius in the north and northwest, 8 or 9 further south. And the wind picks up later in the day across the north and northwest of Scotland. Gales developing in exposed locations. Patchy drizzle again for western Scotland. Low cloud here, but actually some breaks there developing to the east at times. Further south, across southwest Scotland, northwest England, again extensive low clouds, some hill fog and some drizzle. Northern Ireland, grey skies. But for the east coast, that's where we'll see some cloud breaks, although the cloud breaks in the south will become more limited by the evening as the low cloud spreads across much of the country. So generally cloudy skies as we go into the early hours of Wednesday. A lot of low cloud and hill fog to the west. Some patchy drizzle here and there. For many, though, it's a dry night, albeit with a lot of cloud cover. That cloud keeping the frost away, but 5 or 6 Celsius in the south, 8 to 10 further north. It's not a particularly warm start to Wednesday. It's a windy start, though, for the north and west of Scotland. Outbreaks of rain starting to approach here as the morning progresses. Showers for Shetland, but some brightness emerging across much of Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern and Western England, as well as Wales. Low cloud remains for the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, and that spreads widely into Thursday and Friday. Bye-bye.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In the Highland, the A832 is closed each way over Moy Bridge at Marybank because of flooding. The M90 in Perth and Kinross is closed each way over Friarton Bridge between junctions 10 and 11 near Perth because of a fire underneath the bridge causing queues. On the M62 in West Yorkshire, there's a lane closed eastbound at junction 22 at Rishworth Moor after an accident causing queues. In Suffolk on the A14, there's a lane closed westbound after an accident between junctions 55 and 54 near Ipswich with queues from junction 57 at the Nacton interchange. On the M5 in Bristol, there's a lane closed northbound after an accident between junctions 18 and 17 from the M49 to the Cribbs Causeway causing queues. And on the M3 in Hampshire, there's a lane closed northbound. There's an accident just after junction 13 at Chandler's Ford causing queues back along the M27 each way towards there.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Kemi Badenoch slams grooming gangs.
I'm not afraid to look into this. I don't care what people call me, whether they say I'm jumping on a far-right bandwagon.
This is a GB News exclusive in which the Conservative leader labels abusers peasants from sub-communities.
She calls for immediate deportation and imprisonment for foreign criminals.
Treasury turmoil. The Prime Minister gives a lukewarm backing to the Chancellor amid economic chaos.
I'm confident in our mission for growth, and I'm completely confident in my team.
A spy in the palace. Newly unsealed MI5 files revealed what the late Queen did, or crucially did not know, about a KGB spy working at Buckingham Palace.
The bins are not being emptied in Birmingham, and bin workers have walked off the job as union bosses pledged to cause huge disruption to the city. This is to protect their annual salaries, which may be reduced by as much as £6,000.
A lot of cloud across the UK this morning, but some bright spells are expected in one or two spots. After the full forecasts coming up very soon.
Good morning. Good to have you on board. 1 minute past 9 o'clock. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Ellie.
So let's begin with the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch.
Yes, she sat down with the GB News national reporter Charlie Peters in an exclusive bombshell interview. They spoke about the grooming gang scandal that has horrified so many people. Here's what she had to say.
I'm not afraid to look into this. I don't care what people call me, whether they say I'm jumping on a far-right bandwagon or I'm just doing it for politics. This is something that I've been talking about for a while. I said it in my big leadership speech. This was something I wanted to look at. But if you look at it, there's a systematic pattern of behaviour, not even just from one country, but from sub-communities within those countries, people with a particular background, particular class background, work background.
What background is that?
You know, people very, very poor sort of peasant background, very, very rural. This is about those victims who deserve justice, the survivors who deserve justice.
Well, meanwhile, a spokesman for Sir Keir Starmer has confirmed that Rachel Reeves will stay on as Chancellor until the next general election. That's despite a drop in the pound and a borrowing cost increase in the past week alone.
Well, our political editor, Christopher Hope, joins us now with his take on what's been going on. Good morning, Chris.
Morning, Eamonn. Morning, Ellie. Yeah, that's right. Kemi Badenoch there last week raised the issue of these rape gangs in House of Commons, was accused of being on a bandwagon by Sir Keir Starmer. He said you didn't mention it in 8 years since he became an MP, or 7 years or so. So Kemi Badenoch met with victims yesterday and spoke with our colleague Charlie Peters last night. There was no real news in it, in a sense that she said again that if you need to leave the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights, rights to make sure we can send people back when they arrive here legally. We will do. That's where the policy is. But I think the passion in her when she's talking about the issue shows she fully gets it. And it seems that just slowly, like a trickle of water, we're seeing things change. Dan Carden, Labour MP in Liverpool, Paul Waugh, of course, in Rochdale, Sarah Champion, she spoke against the national inquiry last week, now in favour, and of course Andy Burnham, the MP for the Mayor of Greater Manchester, he's now in favour of a limited national inquiry. So slowly but slowly, I think the people who really matter, the MPs in these areas, are turning their face in favour of that. But as things stand, Sir Keir Starmer is saying no national inquiry into the child rape scandal.
What we did hear, though, from Kemi Badenoch last night, talking to Charlie Peters, was a suggestion that all parties could work together on a national inquiry, calling on the Labour Party to work with them on this. Do you think that's something that we could see?
Yeah, maybe. We're hearing repeatedly from Sir Keir Starmer's team that they're listening to the victims, and it's the victims, I think, who will move this dial forward. I think many are saying it's looking a bit like the sub-postmasters scandal a year ago with that ITV programme, and we may see more, I think, as it gets forward. As I'm speaking to you, Ellie and Eamonn, Minister arriving here for the meeting of the Cabinet behind me, and they'll be pressuring, talking to the PM more, I think, about the issue of the bond markets, concerns about the economy. But as we know from yesterday, Rachel Reeves is now safe as Chancellor for the entire term of this Parliament, after Sir Keir Starmer couldn't say that initially when I asked him yesterday morning.
Well, he couldn't say it to you. You're the one that's created all the fuss. 1 minute he's not saying anything, then he vomits out everything. After that, the big love-in between the two of them. The question is, Christopher, why couldn't he just have said to you, yep, all okay there, super cool, she's fantastic, whatever. I mean, what do you make of it?
I don't know, Eamonn. I think he could have said quite simply, yes, of course she's my Chancellor and she'll be there for the rest of the time, but he couldn't say it. I asked, yes or no, will she be Chancellor by the end of this Parliament, by the next election? And then a reporter from The Times asked the same question, and twice he couldn't say that. There was then a 5-hour break before the meeting in the afternoon with the lobby journalists. I was there for that, and at that point they came out and said, yes, we are going to, she will be my Chancellor for the rest of this Parliament. I don't know, maybe he couldn't think quickly for an answer.
OK, Christopher Hope there for us in Downing Street. Thank you very much indeed. Well, let's ask a man who might know the answer. Dan Jarvis MP joins us now, Security Minister for the government. Good to see you this morning, Dan. We've just been speaking there, and I know you're here to speak about cybercrime and what the Labour Party is doing to tackle that. We'll get onto that in just a moment. But we were just speaking about Rachel Reeves and Sir Keir Starmer refusing twice yesterday to give a yes or no answer to the question, will she still be Chancellor by the time the next general election comes around? And that led to a spokesperson for Sir Keir Starmer coming out with that panicked answer 5 hours later. So I'll ask you, will Rachel Reeves be Chancellor by the time the next general election comes around?
Well, good morning. Fundamentally, that is a decision for the Prime Minister, but the Prime Minister did say yesterday that he had full confidence in his Chancellor, and we expect her to be the Chancellor for the duration of this Parliament and continue with the important work she's doing in terms of delivering economic growth for the government.
And do you have full confidence in her, bearing in mind that every single metric you look at is dire? The pound is at a 14-month low, oil prices are at a 6-month high, government borrowing costs at a 30-year high, no growth in the last quarter. Do you have confidence in Rachel Reeves and the decisions that she's made so far?
Yes, I do. I think you do have to look at the context. As a government, we inherited a catastrophic economic legacy from the previous government. The budget that the Chancellor delivered in the autumn of last year was about fixing the fundamentals of our economy. This is a government that is ruthlessly focused on delivering economic growth. Just before Christmas, there was an international investment summit that delivered £63 billion of new funding coming into the UK. Just this week, with the announcement on AI from the Prime Minister, there's a further 12 billion investment. The Prime Minister is meeting with the Prime Minister of Iraq today. I think that will secure billions of pounds of more investment coming into the UK. So this is a government ruthlessly focused on delivering economic growth, because it is only through economic growth will we have the resources that we need to deliver the vital public services on which people rely.
Some of the things getting in your way, Dan, the ransomware, for instance, we won't talk about that because it can steal literally everything. It can steal money out of your pocket. It can upset so many systems, and you're determined to do something about it. Tell us about ransomware. What would ransomware be?
Yeah, thanks, Eamonn. At the moment, we've got a situation where cyber criminals, many of whom are based in Russia, are extorting money from public sector organisations and from private sector businesses, as well as individuals. We want to stop that, and part of the way in which we're going to stop it is by seeking to introduce a ban on the payment of ransoms to the cyber criminals from public sector organisations and from vital infrastructure organisations. We think that by doing that, we will make the UK a harder target, and those cyber criminals, whether they are in Russia or elsewhere, will look to other parts of the world rather than targeting businesses and people in this country. So this is an important world-leading measure. Nobody else has done it anywhere in the world, but we think it's the right way to proceed because we think it will significantly reduce the threat to our businesses and to our organisations here in the UK.
And have we had to pay out ransom money before?
Yeah, and this is about breaking the business model of those cyber criminals. If they understand that ransoms won't be paid, then they are much less likely to seek to extort money from a range of different organisations, both the private and the public sector. So the message we are sending is that the UK is a hard target for the cyber criminals. They should look elsewhere. We're also going to introduce a mandatory reporting regime, because the truth of the matter is, Eamonn, there's still more information that we need to find about the amount, the volume of ransom payments that have been made. Paying a ransom is the wrong approach. You can't trust these cyber criminals, and that's why we're going to ban the payments to them.
Can I ask you about Tulip Siddiq, who is the anti-corruption minister, named herself in 2 separate corruption investigations in Bangladesh, claims that she used her influence as a British MP to secure plots of land for her family, and a second investigation concerns a £4 billion embezzlement tied to a nuclear deal there. Do these allegations undermine her credibility as anti-corruption minister?
Well, the Minister has done the right thing by referring herself to the Prime Minister's independent advisor on ministerial interests, Sir Laurie Magnus. He is, I'm sure, looking very carefully at the circumstances of this particular case. But I am not independent to that process. I am a ministerial colleague. So it is for the independent advisor to take a view and make a recommendation to the Prime Minister. That's what he's in the process of doing. And then it will be for the Prime Minister to decide. But she's done the right thing by referring herself to the independent advisor, and then he will take a view.
OK. Dan, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much indeed. Good talking to you this morning, and good luck on your fight against ransomware.
Thank you.
It's interesting to hear and see that we have been paying, as a country, ransom demands to these Russian criminals on this, but he's saying we'll not pay it anymore, and then they'll have nowhere to go.
Yeah, time's changing. Let us know what you think on that one. gbnews.com/you'll say.
They could also just enter our competition, win it, get 50,000. Well, maybe a bad idea. The Great British Giveaway, here it is, and it could be yours.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash.
Hi.
Still to come, we'll be going back to Westminster to speak to Shadow Financial Secretary to the Treasury, Gareth Davies. That's next.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We were talking earlier about the issue of Siri listening to you. Well, it's not just your own conversations being sort of harvested for data, but it's a problem with AI. So what seems to have happened yesterday is that Apple issued a alert saying that Luke Littler had won the darts before he had. I mean, imagine what would, if he then gone on to lose, how that would have looked. I mean, obviously, because he went on to win, at least they got the story right, but before it had happened. So what it seems to happen is that the AI farms existing stories, and what it has done, that's the alert. We can see the alert there now, and it also claiming that Brazilian tennis player Rafael Nadal had come out as gay when actually a different Brazilian tennis player was actually mentioned in the original story. So what it does is you see that it's branded as BBC Sport. What the Apple AI system does is it farms alerts that it thinks people are getting from the source and then summarises them into
one. That's going to be my question.
Into one alert.
It looks to me like you would assume, OK, the BBC are reporting this.
Absolutely. So the BBC
News might be saying something else.
So it could happen to any news organisation.
This has highlighted a massive issue. I mean, having editorial judgment and quality control, because if this is going on, it's just contributing to the flow of misinformation. Yes. And we know that this is a problem on social media, people reporting false things. But if it seems to come from trusted news sources, that is a massive issue in credibility. I mean, if you had something like Reuters, who's a big news provider, doing this, you could hold people accountable, you could make changes, but when it's the AI doing it, I mean, what do? You're going to have to reprogram it in some way.
And if you just lost control, if you're a news source, you've lost control of what goes out, because it basically farms it, puts your logo on it and sends it out, even when it's nonsense.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Thanks very much indeed for all your comments today and your reactions to what our big interview with Kemi Badenoch came out with. But Charlie Peters, who conducted the interview, Charlie, her use of language, and what did she call people who should be sent back to their own communities?
Well, we're asking, who were they? And she was very vague. She didn't give an example. She said, people from a particular background. We asked her what background, and I did not expect what she said next. She said peasant background. Peasant background from a sub-communities from some countries. She didn't name any countries, but that really did stun me. And perhaps I'm quite desensitised to the language around this debate that I didn't, hit back at that when I heard it. But it was a very unique thing to hear from a Conservative Party leader. I think she's referring to their specific communities within South Asian countries, Bangladesh, Pakistan, for example, who are, generally speaking, overrepresented in this sort of abuse. But it did shock me.
Yeah, well, there you go. It shocked you. Let's speak now to Shadow Financial Secretary to the Treasury, Gareth Davies, who joins us live now. Good to see you this morning, Mr Davies. Just hearing there from our national reporter, Charlie Peters, who had a sit-down interview with Kemi Badenoch last night, in which he described the perpetrators of these crimes and these grooming gangs as peasants from sub-communities within some countries. What did you make of that comment?
Well, clearly we've taken a position which we need an inquiry on these horrendous gangs that are exploiting vulnerable people, and Kemi has been clear, I think, for several days now that the Labour government need to launch that inquiry. Fortunately, we're seeing some Labour MPs start to agree with that position, but we do need the Prime Minister to get a hold of this and ensure that we can move forward, get to the bottom of exactly what is going on in these communities, exactly who these perpetrators are and how many victims are affected. And that's what I'm certainly focused on, making sure we can try and get the Labour government to do soon.
If you were, what's her name, the Chancellor, Rachel Reid, if you were Rachel Reid, how worried about your job and your position would you be, Gareth?
It's not going very well at the moment for Rachel Reeves. This is a government that inherited, after a pretty difficult time in the economy that was turning the corner. Inflation was back down to 2%, the deficit was half that it was in 2010, and the economy was growing. But because of the budget, because of the choices that were made at that budget, we've seen taxes go up by 40 billion, which is hurting business confidence and growth, and those costs will be passed on to consumers through higher inflation. We've seen growth downgraded by the OBR, and debt is going up. And so investors are now walking with their feet. What I would say to Rachel Reeves is she urgently needs to, first of all, stay in the country and try and calm the nerves of these markets, because ultimately it's you and I that's going to be paying for this in higher mortgage rates, higher interest rates. We've got to get back to growing our economy, making sure that public services can be paid for through growth and that inflation stays low. That is the key priority for Rachel Reeves, and she needs to urgently get a grip of this.
It's easy for you to say now in opposition, but government debt soared under the Tories, didn't it? Up to 100% of GDP, equating to 2.8 trillion. I mean, how can you defend that record?
Yeah, debt was too high. We had to increase debt, as you know, because we had a pretty difficult time with the pandemic and then the war in Ukraine, which pushed energy prices up. And so we made a decision. It was a decision to support families and businesses with financial grants and other support like the furlough scheme. And that, yes, cost money and debt went higher. And we're very honest that we had to pay that debt down and start paying that debt down. That's why some taxes had to go up under our government. But we had turned a corner. We had debt starting to fall. The deficit was still half what it was in 2010. And we were able to be in a position where, because inflation was lower, we could start cutting taxes. Ultimately, lower taxes result in higher growth, and higher growth means that you have more money to spend on public services and that you can get debt down. Unfortunately, the budget that Rachel Reeves introduced late last year did the opposite of that. And that's why we're urgently pleading with her to come out, calm markets and change direction.
Can I take you back to the grooming scandal? Because Kemi Badenoch, again interviewed last night by GB News, she admitted that the Tories did not do enough to tackle these abuse gangs. Are you concerned with a wide-ranging national inquiry, the new one that you are calling for and backing? Are you concerned it's going to expose your failures and the failures of 14 years of the Tories?
Well, look, the first thing to say is I think you can never do too much to tackle what is a horrendous situation where vulnerable victims are being exploited by gangs. And we, as you know, we did launch a wide-ranging inquiry. It took many years to be reported. I think it was reported in October 2022. We accepted 18, I think, of the 20 recommendations. We're making progress towards getting those executed. Unfortunately, the election got in the way of some of them being executed on. But we did set up the Grooming Gangs Task Force, and as a result of that, we saw over 500 arrests and 4,000 victims protected. But of course, you could always go further. We should always go further, and that's why we want to now have a very specific inquiry on the grooming gangs, on this gang rape particular situation that we face in this country, to really get to the bottom of who the perpetrators are, which towns are affected. We've heard reports that this could be in up to 50 different towns across our country, and we need to find out who the victims are. And that's why I think it's a pretty reasonable thing to ask that we have a very specific inquiry so that we can learn lessons, yes, of course, but that we can move forward and get justice for the victims.
Gareth, we've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Gareth Davis, for your views this morning. We appreciate it. We'll leave it there. Gareth is the Shadow Financial Secretary. Bev and Andrew are here from 9:30.
Very good morning.
What's tickling you this morning, guys?
Well, we've got a fascinating guest coming on. I don't know whether you remember a few years ago there was a child who was having multiple epileptic seizures every day, and Alfie, and his mother fought to get medicinal cannabis legalised in this country, and she did manage that. But now, apparently, there are nearly 400 families in the UK using cannabis to treat their child's epilepsy, but using it illegally.
And they're buying it off street dealers. Can you believe that?
Oh.
Because the system is not providing the cannabis they are entitled to.
Yeah.
Isn't that terrible?
Yeah, so we're going to hear from her the background to that, because, of course, that could be used for all sorts of ailments, but particularly with epilepsy, it's particularly good, I think, for anyone that doesn't want to take a pharmaceutical drug. We're having a debate about whether junk food ads should be banned. This pops
I don't want
up.
to ban anything. If people want to eat junk food, let them eat it.
Yeah. It won't make any difference to the kids who are getting too fat. It just, I don't think they're not eating it because of advertising.
All right, that's all coming up at 9:30. Thank you, Andrew and Beth, and we are back at 6 a.m. tomorrow.
See you then.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. A lot of cloud today with drizzly rain in places, but some brighter spells will be had, especially towards the far south and southeast through the morning. A chilly start here, and eastern Scotland, northeast England seeing some cloud breaks for much of the day. But elsewhere, it's a largely cloudy picture. The cloud low enough to give some hill fog for Wales and the Pennines, some patchy drizzle, 1 or 2 spots of drizzle through the Midlands and East Anglia as well. The cloud tending to sink south so that most places by the afternoon are grey. 10 to 12 Celsius in the north and northwest, 8 or 9 further south. And the wind picks up later in the day across the north and northwest of Scotland. Gales developing in exposed locations. Patchy drizzle again for western Scotland. Low cloud here, but actually some breaks there developing to the east at times. Further south, across southwest Scotland, northwest England, again extensive low clouds, some hill fog and some drizzle. Northern Ireland, grey skies. But for the east coast, that's where we'll see some cloud breaks, although the cloud breaks in the south will become more limited by the evening as the low cloud spreads across much of the country. So generally cloudy skies as we go into the early hours of Wednesday. A lot of low cloud and hill fog to the west. Some patchy drizzle here and there. For many, though, it's a dry night, albeit with a lot of cloud cover. That cloud keeping the frost away, but 5 or 6 Celsius in the south, 8 to 10 further north. It's not a particularly warm start to Wednesday. It's a windy start, though, for the north and west of Scotland. Outbreaks of rain starting to approach here as the morning progresses. Showers for Shetland, but some brightness emerging across much of Scotland. Northern